Daniel Libby.
Tommy Kerrigan, what's up, brother?
What's going on, man? Hey, for everyone for all the rude individuals that had the nerve to watch this episode without watching the other two with you, which I believe are number 38 and something, I'll link them. Introduce yourself real quick for all the good people.
Dan Libby here, retired Senior Master Sergeant in the United States Air Force, 26 and a half years of service to our nation. Filled a number of roles and just currently working in the security industry, helping people stay safe.
Hell yeah. So I don't think I can say who. Let me turn on the big fan overhead.
Yeah.
I don't think I can say who it was, but I called I don't even know if I can go into this. You know what? I'm not even going to go into this. But I could be having a cool guest sometime soon. Not an individual so much as they are associated with a cool thing.
Awesome.
You understand. I can't.
I'm tracking.
Yeah.
I'm tracking.
It could be cool. It could be very cool. But, yeah. So, scratch that entirely. But, yeah, dude. Did you, by any chance, watch any of the Delta Force guy?
I watched some of it. It's been a busy couple of weeks for me around here, man. So I haven't had much time to do a lot.
It has been. Yeah.
He's a funny dude.
Dude, yeah, he gave me his number, and so I texted him. I was like, yo, Dale. I was like, let's do another podcast. And this was at 10:46 a.m. in the morning the other day.
Yeah.
Dale's 13 hours ahead of me. He's in Bali.
Yeah.
And he was like, yo, busy right now. Let's talk in 24 hours. I was like, all right. The next morning I woke up. It was like 10:30 in the morning. And I was like, yeah, I should text him. I was like, yeah, I'll shoot him a text right now. So, what's up, Dale? He told me to text you. He called me at 10:46, exactly at 24 hours, and was like, present. And I was like, you really are Delta Force. And I was like, and he's like, gave me like a rough schedule. It was like this, that, the other thing. And I was like, cool. And he was like, I'm going to be radio silent for the next week. I was like, all right. I texted him yesterday, nothing. And I was like, he means what he says. But yeah, he's a cool fucking dude. Yeah, he's hilarious. So God damn it, my dog just started barking. Explain to me what you were telling me on the phone, because we just started talking the other day on the phone, and I was harassing you, trying to get you to do the podcast then, but you were busy.
That's funny.
But you had just started explaining I think it was like new facial recognition, or there was something recognition. You had started talking about it.
Okay.
You were saying it's
we were talking about. I got you.
Yeah.
We were talking about visible, observable behaviors on people that are on the cusp of committing an act of violence, right? And so we were talking about different facial expressions. What do those mean? How can you tell, looking at a crowd of people, that this person right here or that person right there is potentially getting ready to commit an act of violence? You know what I mean? Are there telltale signs or not? And I think, for trained individuals, there are some of those telltale signs. Some of it's intuition, obviously, but a big part of it is going back to, what is a baseline behavior for everybody else around? And is this person deviating from that? Okay, so that got my attention, because now, you're at an event and everybody's looking at the stage, but somebody comes in maybe a little bit later, whatever, and they're really not looking at the stage. They're looking around, looking at security, looking at whatever, not really kind of engaged. Now they got my attention because they're not doing the same thing as everybody else, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm going to look a little bit closer at their expressions, mannerisms, behaviors. Do they appear to be under stress, duress, agitation, those kinds of things. And you can see that in people's facial expressions. You can see it in their hand movements, how they're maybe they're walking or moving. Are they shifting around a lot? Are they grabbing a particular piece of clothing on a regular basis, to make an adjustment where maybe they shouldn't be? Things that are clues to, hey, maybe I need to make contact with this individual and maybe have a little sidebar conversation with them, before anything may or may not happen. So I recently received a copy of a study from the RAND Corporation that goes into a lot of detail about that particular subject. So I just started reading it. a couple of days ago, and it's like 300 pages, so it's a lot of material to cover. But the RAND Corporation did a really good job of doing this study to help out like Homeland Security and, other government agencies for that specific purpose. Here are some trends or indicators that we can say, hey, this warrants more of your attention than maybe everybody else in line or everybody else in the crowd. So let me see if I can find, let me dig on my computer here real quick, man, and see if I can find what the title of that document is. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of eerie, but it makes sense. It's like, everyone's staring at the stage. Whoever, let's say it's fucking Justin Bieber. And, everyone's going nuts. Everyone's watching. Yeah, someone comes in a little late. If you're a fan coming in late, it's, oh shit, we're late, but you're running up and you're still, we can still catch the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're just strolling in a little late and, maybe you're not like a teenage girl. Maybe you're like a grown man in a trench coat or a hoodie. That's when it's like, what the fuck's this guy doing?
Well, like that guy that shot up that church in Texas that ended in his termination by the local security team guys on hand, right? I mean, he shows up wearing a fake beard. He's got a watch cap on him. We talked about this before, and he was concealing a shotgun, which he used to open fire, in the service. Mm-hmm. And within 6 seconds, he was killed, by a security team there, which is 2 seconds faster than when we give people time to ride a bull, right? We give them 8 seconds to win that belt, ride a bull, and this guy, he's gone in 6. So I guess sounds like a title of the new film, not Gone in 60 Seconds, Gone in 6 seconds, But there may have been some behaviors that could have been observable ahead of time to say, hey, this guy requires contact right now, even if it's verbal contact, to really do an assessment on is this person a threat or not. So the RAND Corporation did a review. It was a science-based review of behaviors associated with that, and it's titled Using Behavioral Indicators to Help Detect Potential Violent Acts. There's a published date on this thing. So, where was it at? It's not that important. Yeah. It's a recently published document. So, like I said, it's about 300 pages long, and I'm just getting started into it. Copyright. This is copyright 2013.
Yeah.
So not quite as recent as maybe I thought, but a lot of these principles are applicable today as they were 2013, as they were in 1990, whatever. You know what I mean? So
now, are there so like what you just explained to me, like that could be explained to me and understood, and I could fill like a blank spot in your security team if you were just like, Tom, just if anyone comes in and they just kind of don't look like they belong, just let me know. Like that's simple enough where it's like, okay, I couldn't do anything else, but it'd be like I could maybe plug a hole for you. Are there things that are much more specific and would maybe be but probably wouldn't be utilized at a concert, would probably only be utilized in security for heads of state? Are there things that like you couldn't, like I get you come in late, maybe you're not staring at the stage, maybe you look stressed, whatever, you don't fit the mold of everyone else. Yeah, you explain it to me and okay, boom, I got it. I don't need to have a further understanding. Are there things that like maybe aren't intuitive, like, or is this like a James Bond fantasy? But are there things where it's like, for people like in the same room as the president or something, are there body expressions that guards look for that are not intuitive, like a facial twitch or the movement of a thumb?
So, how do I put this? There's a very systematic approach and very specific training given to people that are in like the Secret Service or close executive protection, for delegates, congressmen and women or what have you, right? For very specific body language indicators that go, yeah, this person is dangerous. We're going to deal with it right now, right? Things like it could be something as small as, crunched lip, right? You know, their eyes are looking around the room, and every time they get on the one, maybe individual or something like that, their facial expression changes and expresses stress, right? So maybe their eyes squint just a little bit more, or open a little bit wider, or, you know, they scrunch their lip. Lots of different little indicators like that to say, okay, there's a pattern here, and you know, warrants intervention maybe. But by the time somebody gets to say, you know, shaking hands with the president or members of Congress, I mean, there's so many levels of security and stuff that they have to go through to even get there, you know. Mike Pence, vice president, came out to Vandenberg Air Force Base several months back, and I was able to get my wife out on the tarmac there with a bunch of other family members and stuff to greet him when he landed. And, you know, Secret Service showed up. Everybody had to go through metal detectors. They went through pat downs. They were told what they could and could not have with them on their person. You know, no selfie sticks, you know, nothing like that. Don't hand him anything. You know, you can shake his hand, but, you know, here's a very specific set of rules and guidelines. Not only that, they go through a background check ahead of time, too. So I had to provide my wife's, you know, PII, her personal identifying information, and several days ahead of time. And then that got ran through whatever system, you know, Secret Service uses to determine, okay, is this person, you know, okay to come see the vice president or not? I mean, so it's a very layered approach to security, right? Yeah. Now, can they do that everywhere they go? I don't know. I mean, in foreign countries, it probably gets a little more difficult, and they got to work through U.S. consulates in that country to do those types of background checks and stuff like that. But I can say that once you get within that 5 to 10 feet, you know, your body language is getting scrutinized much, much more now as the closer you get to the principles being protected.
That makes sense. It's you're not going to be applying that level of security to Bob in the upper decks at Yankee Stadium, like so much as it's like there's, you know, you're past perimeter 1, you're past perimeter 2, and it's like now you are in the same room. And it's the level of security goes up and up, and now it's literally like where's his eyes
even the TSA trainers that I've spoken with in the past, right? Mm-hmm. They get very specific training on body languages, and they have a matrix, kind of like a quad chart, right? Yeah. So, you know, it's a sheet divided in 4, and in this section you've got these facial expressions, and you've got, you know, this body language, and then you have these behaviors, right? And when you look at over those and you see somebody exhibiting those things that's approaching security to get into, you know, an airline terminal, the more of those behaviors that they're exhibiting, the closer they're scrutinized coming through security. They may be pulled off to the side and gone through private security, you know, instead of, they may be the person that's selected for a pat down, you know, who knows? Their bag might be the one that actually somebody goes through it extensively and swabs it and everything else. But it does come down to little things like facial expressions, ignoring directions from the security personnel, testing security by playing dumb and trying to walk through or whatever, or not following, you know, directions, repeatedly showing up to the same checkpoint, right? So you see that person, they come up for a bag search, you know, trying to get into an event like a concert or something, right? And then they go away, and then they come back again, you know, 2-3 times. It's like, why didn't that person just go through security and get in? You know, so that kind of pattern of behavior is one of those things that you go, okay, and we need to watch this person a little closer, give a little more check before we let them pass through our gates.
You're saying all these things, and it's making me realize that I think I may have been, now in hindsight, I would say I definitely was probably flagged by the institution I called earlier. Just look, like, hey, can I get a representative to come on and talk about? No, you may not. Not at all, actually. Oh, okay. And just, you know, could you send me your email? Yes, sir. Is this your number? And what is your full name? Just like, oh, okay. Yeah, I realized in hindsight, I was like, to me, it's just the most innocent thing. Like, hey, I'm Tommy. I got a podcast called Tommy's Podcast. I just want to... And now, in hindsight, it's probably like, yeah, are they probing? What are they seeing?
They're seeing everything you do.
Yeah, everything. Boop. Yeah. It's, yeah. But yeah, no, it ultimately turned out to be a good phone call. But yeah, probing. That makes me think, I think I do that because I chat up everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I've often thought I probably could easily be mistaken for someone probing. Because, I mean, really, I'm bored at the airport and I'm waiting 3 hours for my flight and I'm at Hartsfield Jackson. Hey, man, what's the craziest thing you've seen here? Do you guys detect nuclear shit? It's probably who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
Generic white guy glasses, yeah, perfect disguise, buddy. In reality, it's there's nothing deeper than that. So I remember in a book called Blink by, I think, Malcolm Gladwell, I read in 2007 or something, but it talks about how your facial expressions betray your true intent, and the level of you may show just a millisecond of stress when you're looking at the president or something, and that would be enough for an agent to go, what's that? But I guess on even shorter time scales, down defined by the literal what's the smallest amount of time a muscle fiber can fire to create an expression. But apparently for even, I wouldn't say microseconds because that's a millionth, but apparently for even less than a millisecond, there are windows where you betray yourself even more, but it's such a tiny window that it can only be captured by computers. So
artificial intelligence is going to be playing a much bigger role in this type of detection for sure. I think that's where you're going with this, right?
Yeah, and we're right back down the rabbit hole. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I mean, the human brain is capable of picking up a lot of things very quickly too, and it's one of those things where when you train and practice to do it on a regular basis, you have an understanding of what you're seeing. A lot of people will sense something's happening, right? Their gut's telling them something's happening. What they don't realize is their brain is actually processing and analyzing a lot of information really quickly, and it's trying to tell them, hey, maybe danger, or maybe something's not right, or whatever. They can't necessarily explain exactly why, right? But they go, oh, I sensed it. No, your brain assessed it. That's what happened.
There's no. I have a sense. I have a special gift, and it's your brain is your entirety. Your brain is an entire security detail.
Yeah.
But instead of it being trained and being notice his movements, notice that he went in and out that door 4 times, and your brain just says it all as why don't you get out of here, bud? And you just go, oh, I sensed it. But that's what they talked about in that book, Blink. Right. Is at the beginning, this woman she's a curator for a museum, and this guy unveils a marble statue, and she goes, fake. And then she couldn't understand, and she was the best in the world at detecting this. She was maybe worked for the Louvre or something, and so she went through weeks of explaining it to her team, and they're scanning it, and it was even made of the same marble from where the real ones were made. But they're trying to play it off as this 2,000-year-old one, and it was indistinguishable to everyone else. And she was I second guessed myself, but she was my first instinct was fake. And she was and I've realized that after I guess talking with neuroscientists, she was that was my brain saying, that was my whole security detail saying fake. And you might even a trained expert like her, you might never be able to pinpoint what exactly it is. But it's what they'd always, all the former doctors that were our professors in college, taking the upper level science classes, everyone competing to get into med school, they would always say when you come across a question and you don't know it, they're when you first come, just what did my gut say? Because they're your gut, you're pulling out something that you read but you've forgotten, but that the deep seat in your brain has not forgotten. It's it's page 261 of OChem 2. That's it. It's benzene. But to you, all you're getting is just this. I feel like it's A, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
But so there's definitely a whole. Yeah, and it's, I guess, can that be amplified by AI? Can it be?
Well, so yes. The answer to that question is yes. Right. once you have an algorithm and AI that can essentially take thousands, if not millions, of bits of data on a facial expression, and interpret that to what does that facial expression mean, and learn that, right? And then go, okay, so this person's making this facial expression. It might be dilation in the eyes, lips sticking to their teeth a little bit because their mouth is dry because they just got a shot of adrenaline because they're getting ready to do something, and now they're having this metaphysical, response to that stress. You may not see it with your own eyes, or you may not recognize that you're seeing it with your own eyes, but AI can go, that guy, that gal, right there. Pull him aside, go talk to him. And I think we're going to see that more and more. I mean, we're already seeing facial recognition and artificial intelligence being used to a limited degree at things like, concerts for celebrities, right? I think it was Taylor Swift's company that put on a concert not too far in the past here where they were showing her videos on these screens as people were walking up, to process their tickets and go get their seats and everything. So as people are watching these screens, there's actually a camera back there that's looking at them and bouncing it against all these known people that made threats against her, right? So it could flag the security team that, hey, we do or do not have a known threat. By the way, where they sit. And so now the security team can digitally track them back to their seat, and keep a better eye on them to make sure nothing happens, right? So those types of things are becoming more and more available and more frequently used. Security at large events, doesn't just start and stop with physical security. Fences, gateways, choke points to push people through for searches, your armed security, your unarmed security, and all that stuff. I mean, that's not where security nowadays starts and stops for at least major events. So there's technology out there, and I can't get into a lot of it. But I can say this. There are things like social media that's being monitored, communications that are being monitored during these large events, kind of in a fenced area. Think of a virtual fence around where the event's taking place, right? And so if people start posting certain things on their social media, or the technology that's being utilized to communicate with, to say, hey, meet us at this location because this is where we're all rallying to have our, protest or whatever it may be, then that can be intercepted and alert the security team as well. All right. Some of that technology began long before the Ferguson riots in St. Louis happened. But the Ferguson riots, I think, in St. Louis really brought the need for having that virtual net around an event, because the people that were involved in the mobs in St. Louis were using, I can't remember if it was Snapchat or Twitter or something of that nature, some application on their phones to rally where they were going to conduct their looting and rioting and stuff, right? Now, if law enforcement had the ability at the time to monitor all that stuff and maybe just kind of get a yellow, orange, red cloud developing on a map at the 911 call center, even if they don't know what it is, they could at least send a patrol out there to have a visible presence to maybe deter anything from cooking off. But they didn't, right? It wasn't until really after the events, or after the events were initiated, after the rioting was initiated, that law enforcement caught on to, oh crap, these guys are they're moving forces around this part of town, using this to communicate and rally people. So so the security industry has really kind of picked up on that. And like I said, now there's the ability to create a virtual fence or bubble around an event to help stop that kind of mob activity as well. So
I wonder if you could do something like, I wonder if you could use something like Apple Watches or whatever, or even your phone can tell your heartbeat. I wonder if you could make people unwittingly your agents. So, if I'm dealing with a proficient and a capable threat, just Bob, and Bob wants to take out Taylor Swift, Bob's also he's probably done his research, and maybe he knows don't look directly at cameras, definitely don't post anything, no hashtags. Like, let's say Bob is someone that's watched our podcasts, right?
Yeah.
So Bob would know what to avoid. I wonder if you could use something like, but Bob may still be giving off not cyber vibes, but he may still be giving off just general creepy vibes, or just, stay away vibes from people that might not report it to security, but they physiologically might be going, who is that guy? I wonder if you could, so stay with me, I wonder if you could then use people's phones or watches and be like, you could have this like whole field, this like virtual field of like, these are normal like heartbeats and everything. And it could be like, there's this like, you could almost track this like blob moving of like, as like heartbeats change, because it's like, who is that guy? Like, grab my kid. Who is that? That guy's creepy. Like, I wonder if you could almost track it through a crowd. Like, as Bob moved, it'd be like, there is a subject moving. And like, it's smart enough, this subject is smart enough that they're not looking at any cameras. They've got a fake beard on.
Sure.
But again, I doubt you'd be utilizing something like that for a Taylor Swift concert. Maybe White House, maybe inside the White House, maybe inside the, whatever, G7, but...
So I will go back to my normal comments on things like that. Yeah. If you can think of it, if you could imagine it, somebody has probably created it, right?
I got some big sweatpants I'm putting on. I'm cold. Don't worry.
He's doing the no pants dance.
No, I already got pants on. I was just thinking, as I was saying that, I was like, Dan probably thinks I'm sitting here like, does this motherfucker just not have pants on? Like,
that's so funny, man.
Yeah. If I can think of it.
If you could think about it, somebody's probably already created it, right? It's just, I don't have intimate knowledge on how something like that would be exploited, the technical aspects of it. But if you think about it, if you have one of these, which we all have nowadays, right, smartphone, it's listening all the time.
Yeah.
Now, there's things you can do to limit it, okay, but Siri or what's the other one?
Alexa.
Google, somebody's listening and collecting data all the time, right? Your camera on your phone and on your computer and stuff is not really safe anymore. It's just everything's collecting everywhere. If there's a digital footprint somewhere, it's collecting information on everything going on around you. It's amazing how often my wife and I will be talking about something, and then I'll go to Google on my phone, and I just start typing it, and the first thing that pops up is what the hell we were talking about.
Dude, after every podcast, swear to God, every podcast, I will, like right now, if I picked up my phone and I typed in T, I guarantee you it would say Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Never searched it before in my life. I swear I've never searched Taylor Swift before. But no, that will come. Yesterday, talking to the NASA guy, I didn't know anything about that program, the NASA SLS. It's like the new Saturn V. Pleasantly surprised. That's so cool. Went to YouTube and asked the SLS. I was like, and mind you, I haven't even started uploading the podcast yet. So it's not even like, oh, you recently uploaded this. Like, I have it in iMovie, and it's, in my laptop's on airplane mode. Like, so it's not backing up on iCloud. So I'm just like, okay, the process is faster. Yeah, and you pick up your phone, and it's
So everything's listening. A lot of people have devices in their homes nowadays that listen to them as well, right? Or they can activate the systems in their homes from their phone from anywhere in the world. Yeah. My son was recently out here visiting with me last week, helping me do some work around the house. And so he's got a doorbell that has a camera on it that's tied into his network at home. And, something passed in front of the house, and the camera caught it, and it's instantly sent it to his phone to let him know, hey, this car just drove past the front of your house. Okay, that would get annoying after a while. I tend to think that these things are not just necessarily phones and little computers. I think they're RCGs, random crisis generators, right? So every time you get a ping on there, it's like you instantly have to look at it. It's like, what's going on in the world, right? So now there's...
I was going to say, aside from the couple hours leading up to a podcast, I'll turn on text message notifications. So I'll establish contact with the guest. Hey, Dan, we talking? Yep, see you in 30. Ding. Okay, Dan. Aside from that, after this, dude, notifications off. So my phone's been on silent, on like do not disturb. I don't even get I can't even see. I have to click on the text message icon to see whether or not I have to click on stuff to see if like that's because when I don't do that, it is a crisis generator. I'm always like, what do you mean someone replied to me on Reddit? What do you mean they don't agree with me? What the? And then seconds beforehand, I was just sitting there with my dog, just like, listening to the birds and ding. What do you mean Biden's trending? Biden's trending? It's just like, what? Yeah, you're importing bullshit. Yeah, sorry. Keep interrupting you.
No, you're absolutely right. That's why I call it an RCG, random crisis generator. But it was interesting that my son had access to things in his home, turning lights on and off, managing what's in his refrigerator, what the temperature is, and all this kind of stuff, and watching video footage from his doorbell, all from his phone here in California, out here visiting me. And it got me thinking about some other things. So during my last deployment, we got notified that, hey, if you got a Fitbit, turn it off, turn the GPS off on and stuff, because they've been exploited now. We had some military guys, doing their running circuit, get their PT in over in Iraq or whatever, and they were using a Fitbit to track it, and their Fitbit got hacked, right, by terrorists and other people, and they could see the perimeter of the base. They could tell all kinds of things about it. And it kind of goes back to what you were talking about, somebody moving through a crowd, can we check their heart rate and stuff? Well, I mean, think about all the things you can exploit that's being collected from that watch, right? Your fitness level, your heartbeats, that can give somebody a sense of, who they're up against from a physical perspective. Are these people going to be on point? You know what I mean? What's their morale like? Because when people's morale starts to dip, they start to walk away from their exercise routine. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they do things that are more in line with being lethargic than being energetic, right? So if your morale's down, it's like, I'm not going for a run, man. This is crap. I'm not doing this today. I think I'm going to sit here and watch movies all day. So now my heart rate's low all day long. I haven't really moved anywhere, right? That's an indicator maybe that my morale is down. Well, if that's consistent across that installation or across that yard, that base or whatever, then an enemy can go, now's the time to strike, because their morale's down. They're not going to be able to respond as good. Yeah. Right. Not only that, but again, here's a map of their installation. We know how big it is. We know where most people congregate, so that must be an important building. This must be the dining facility, because this is where people go at these times of days. I mean, so all of that information is available. Now, how do you go about exploiting that and tapping into it? I don't have the technical expertise, but I do know that we were ordered to shut that stuff off and quit using it.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, that's insane. And not only that, they always say I know what the fuck I'm talking about. When military's starting to move, when they're starting to do something, that's when chatter stops, right?
Right. Which can be an indicator in and of itself.
I was going to say, what if chatter stops, but you're still looking at Fitbits, and now everyone's resting heart rate is a little higher, and some Blackhawks just landed. If I had to guess where Delta Force was launching from tonight, it might be this sudden influx of Fitbits of apparently all these guys were in fantastic shape, and they must be special forces, and they're all very nervous right now because they're sitting still and their heart rate's jacked.
It's interesting, because I don't know if Dale talked about that or not when you had him on your show, because I didn't go through the whole thing. But some of the operators I came in contact with over in the Middle East, when I say operator, I'm talking, special forces, whether Army or Navy or MARSOC or what have you. A lot of those folks are trained to such a high level of intensity that they're kind of flatline most of the time, and then when action starts, right, they can ramp up and have that response, that fight response right away. And then when it's done, they kind of really quickly come back down to a level position again. Yeah. Now, the snipers that I met, I don't think those guys had any kind of personality, man. Some of them might, but the ones that I talked to and stuff, they're machines. Just flatlined all the time. You talk to them and they just talk like this, and everything's cool. Everything's good. Yeah, what are we doing? Oh, we're going to go eat. Okay. What are we doing tomorrow? Oh, we're going to go kill some bad guys. Yeah. And then we're going to come eat again and sleep. I mean, it's just weird, man. It's like they don't laugh. They don't cry. They don't get excited. They just are like flat.
You got to. If you want to be like an elite sniper, you got to just be in the zone. in the zone. Don't let any deviations come. Yeah, because you don't.
I worked with a gunnery sergeant over in Iraq who was a scout sniper, and we tried for 8 months to get that guy to laugh.
Really?
Just couldn't do it. Yeah, just couldn't do it. Never could do it. It's not like he was like over serious.
Yeah.
But he was like emotionally just flat.
Yeah.
Like oatmeal,
Yeah.
Flavorless oatmeal. Just no personality. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, we did everything we could to get this guy laughing. He wasn't surprised by anything. He wasn't shocked by anything. And he just, life was good.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Yeah. See, I've always taken those as challenges, even just in like middle school or high school. Like, I would always just, not pester someone, but just someone who was just, kind of just, silent, just quiet, straight-faced. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'd always take it as like a personal challenge, just to get them to crack, and not piss them off, not harass them. If I saw they really just didn't like me, I'd be like, okay, I'll fuck off. But like every once in a while, I'd try like all year, and finally, I'd look at, I'd just say, make a dick joke or something, and you'd see like a. And I'd be like, got him. Fucking got him. Yeah. And it was for no further purpose than, I guess, my own limited intelligence and entertainment. But like, yeah, I'm now that you said that about Dale, while we were talking, I was going to ask him something about that. But I was so like psyched to have him on. I was just like, try not to interrupt. I was like, don't interrupt, Tommy. Don't interrupt. Like, this is the coolest guy. And but yeah, I actually made a note about that. And, yeah. I mean, I was writing down all this shit while I was talking to him. Yeah. But yeah, one of it was is it detrimental getting to such a high level? Because the adrenaline is, definitely don't let the emotions get you, but also like use it to your advantage. Like Hunter S. Thompson with fear. He was like, fear is a wild animal, shouldn't get rid of it. You should keep it in front of you where you can see it. And he said you should keep it in front of you with a rein on it. Use it like a wild horse. He said stand behind it with a gun so you can kill it if you need to. But he's like, don't get rid of it. Use it.
Yeah.
But obviously I forgot to ask him. But I wanted to ask him, is it detrimental to be so experienced and so calm in these situations that it might work against you if there's an enemy ambush? Like, definitely good to keep your head and be like, where did the shots come from? Okay, yeah, he's dead. Don't think about that right now. Where did the shots come from? Can I get this convoy out of here? But you also want, like, you want to be able to be like, it's time to fucking rock and roll now. Yeah. If you're just, like a monk on morphine, that might be detrimental. That might be just as bad as getting choked up.
Yeah, but see, I don't think those guys are like that, though. What I'm saying is, I think once, like I said, once they have contact, right, everything ramps up. And their adrenaline. I won't say they don't have any adrenaline. I would imagine they have a lot of adrenaline, right? But they're trained so well that when the fight's on, they ramp up to overwhelm their opponent, right? And then they ramp back down really quickly afterwards, where a lot of people might go into shock or, have that sustained level of adrenaline dump and not know how to function even after the event, right? So it takes them longer to come down from that adrenaline rush and stuff. And I saw some of that stuff in Iraq with people that, first time we're in an ambush, and it was the first time this guy has been in an ambush, and he freaking loses it and doesn't know what the hell's going on around him. He's got tunnel vision. He's amped up for several hours afterwards, just kind of freaking out and stuff. And those of us that had drilled to react to those types of ambushes and whatnot, we were able to like push through the events and then focus on next steps. Okay, get off the X. Let's get out of the kill box. We've already dealt with these guys. Let's get the hell out of here now. And then we go. But we had a couple of folks that just freaked out, man. They freaked out. Now, I don't have near the level of training. I will never claim that I have near the level of training, that our special forces guys have, or maybe even, some of our hard charging infantry, for things like that. But I do have a good enough understanding and training and experience, in combat to go, yeah, if you're trained and you can rely on that, you can react appropriately even through that adrenaline and everything, and it doesn't become an issue. And I think with our operators, more so, they are trained to a point where, cool, game time, let's go. Okay, now we're backing right back off, moving on to the next objective. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, because, if you're going to checkpoint Bravo or whatever, and you're on your way and you get ambushed, you got to turn it up to 11, deal with it. Yeah. But then it's like, we can't sit around and be like, that was so crazy. We'd be like, we still have to be there by sundown.
Right.
And we got to go now. And we got to be on the lookout for the next one. Yeah, that's what he would talk about. That's what he did talk about a couple times, was like how he had no problem with that. But he was also in the CIA Special Activities Division, which recruits from Delta and DevGru.
Yeah.
And he would talk about he wouldn't even call it that. He would call it OGA. And he would talk about his biggest problems were from the locals that he would use. He would not use, train and be like, yeah, you're coming with us. He said his biggest problems were from them because they would be, he'd be like, we're hoofing it. We got, a 2-day hike and we each have one canteen of water. He's like, we're not going for 5 minutes, and these guys are flipping off the tops and dumping it over their heads. And I'm like, what are you doing? He said another guy, his translator, and they called him Harley Davidson because he always wanted to own a Harley Davidson. He said Harley Davidson, they're walking on this little goat trail in the middle of and they're going to provide, they were going to do the laser spotting for JDAMs. So they're going up in this mountain in the middle of nowhere. And he's like, and my translator falls off the cliff. And he goes, and I'm thinking, fuck, he's dead. He's gone. And he goes, and I looked down, and it just so happened he fell off at the corner where there was a little, ledge below it, 20 feet below it. He's like, and this guy fell down there, and he, bit through his lip, and he's bleeding and everything. And I'm like, are you okay? And he's like, yes, Mr. Dale, I fell. And he's like, no shit, get back up. And he brings him back up. And he said that the interpreter's talking to him, and he's like, no, he apologizes. He had never worn night vision before tonight. And Dale was like, you've never, not once. He's like, he'd never put them on before. And he's like, here we are. I'm covered in paint. I've already, written my letter to my wife. If I don't come home. And here's this guy I had never tried them on before. And he's just like, motherfucker. But he said that's where his problems came from, were dealing with guys who freaked out and didn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, so getting back to that, I think our guys are trained extremely well. Our operators get quite a bit of training too in situational awareness, and they get formal training on it, then they get experience, which really builds on that training, because all experience always builds on your training if you have a foundation, right? And so those guys, even Dale, he could probably walk into a situation and go, just something's not right. Now, he may be able to explain exactly why something's not right, or he might not.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you his training, his experiences got him to a point where he can go, yeah, something bad's about to go down, and we either need to get the hell out of here or go attack that person there because they're going to be the instigator. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll wrap this back up to the computer thing here. So when we talk about the human brain being able to absorb and process and analyze, tons and tons of information very quickly, computers are getting to that point where they can do it too, and maybe even better in a lot of cases, right? So when you throw artificial intelligence at something and you get 5 million, 10 million, 50 million examples of facial expressions for this machine to learn from, right, and go, okay, these facial expressions are consistent with these types of events following. are we getting into the realm, of Minority Report, man? You know what I mean? Like where we have a system that's now predicting when these things are going to happen. I don't know if we'll get there someday, maybe, but I don't think we're there yet. But I do think we're at a point now where a computer can absolutely tell a security team, hey, TSA agent, hey, this person requires more scrutiny, right? Now, is TSA using that stuff right now? I don't know. But it always makes me wonder when I travel internationally and I have to use my passport and I'm going through customs and stuff. You walk up to the customs counter and they take your passport and there's this little camera that's looking at you. Yeah. Is that camera scanning my irises right now? Is it mapping my facial structure? Is it bouncing off some database that has information about me already, in the passport system? Like, what is it really doing? And I don't know. I can speculate, but I would imagine that it's some form of facial recognition, right, in order to prevent people from coming through with phony passports, right? Especially if it's a country you've traveled to before. I don't know if countries have these agreements where they share that information or not. But for instance, I was in Iraq doing interrogations, and we used a biometric system to get fingerprints, iris scans, pictures of the people, their names, all this stuff to collect this data. And it went into a database. The database was supposed to be shared, with Homeland Security, what became Homeland Security later down the road, right? Customs, Border Patrol, all this stuff. So that if they stopped somebody coming through that was a terrorist that we identified over in Iraq, trying to gain access to the United States, the system was supposed to help deter that, regardless of what name they gave. You know what I mean? Because there are certain features, that you can't really change on your face, like your iris. It's like fingerprints. It's something you can't really. It's unique to you. Your name is your name. It can be a million freaking things. Who cares? But this is like positive ID right here. Yeah, we're 100% positive that this matches. Abu terrorist from Baghdad, right? But then again, that information is only as good as the people putting that information in to the system and the system's ability to learn from it. So I think AI has come a long ways, and we're going to see much more advancement in that realm when we're talking about artificial intelligence and facial recognition and behavioral recognition as well. Measuring somebody's gait in their walk, their stride, is that consistent with known strides for that individual that we've collected in the past, right? That could tell us, does he have an injury? Does she have an injury now where they have a limp? Or is it possible that they have an ankle gun on and they're not used to wearing it, and now they're dragging that leg or kicking it further because of the added weight? We look at that and we study that as human beings in the security industry, and we go, yeah, that's a potential tale that somebody has a weapon on them, right? Because of that gait is so off, you know what I mean? Or it's off a little bit, right? Yeah. But as a computer starts collecting this information, right, on an individual, it can rapidly analyze that and call out deviations to patterns and stuff. Yeah. So, for instance, you have a bank, right? And you've got customers coming into the bank all the time, and you're videotaping them. If you run an artificial intelligence collection system on those videos that you're collecting for your customers, you will get patterns of people's behavior that are regular customers. And now they walk through the door one day and something's changed, that AI could alert their security pretty quickly to there's a potential threat right now.
To something to like something that's a non-intuitive indicator. Something that you'd literally have to use a supercomputer to, or not even just a computer to look at.
I worked in a facility years ago where I had to go through a portal to be able to get into the hallway where the bathrooms were, let alone like the hallway to get to where my office was. So it was a swipe badge, PIN number. You go into this little portal, right? It's like a little tiny closet. So the door, you go in, the door closes, and you stand facing a certain direction. There's a camera there that's hooked to a computer system that's looking at you to make sure that there's only one you. It's not like somebody is monitoring that portal. The computer is doing it. Then the floor would weigh you, and you had to be within 10 pounds either way of what the weight was on your ID badge to make sure you weren't carrying anything in or any of that kind of stuff. So, it gave you an allowance, 10 pounds either way, right? So you could bring in some water or whatever. But if you're bringing in a briefcase, the camera would pick it up and be like, it won't let you through, right? And then if for some reason you don't pass that automated check, you'd be locked in that portal and security would be alerted and they come and extract you. They come pull you out. What? So if you pass that, then the door opens and you go in and now you're in the hallway where the bathroom is, and then it's a different swipe badge PIN number to get in the hallway where you work, and then, swipe badge, different PIN number to get into your office, and, all these levels of security. But I go back to say this because I was working in that facility early 2000s, so 20 years ago, right? And the technology 20 years ago was at a point where a computer is looking at me to make sure that I'm the only person in that portal, that I don't weigh outside the boundaries, that I'm not carrying anything in or out of there that I'm not supposed to, totally automated, totally would only alert the authorities if something was wrong. 20 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, that's well, I was going to say on whenever I go up to my friend's house for the weekend, over Super Bowl weekend, where I'm not bullshitting when I say I think I ate like 15 family-sized bags of Tostitos in 72 hours. Like, I'm not laughing. Like, I did this in 3 days. Dude, I came back and weighed myself, and I was 18 pounds heavier from just water weight that stuck to with all the carbs and sodium.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so my gluttonous ass would be flagged in that portal. And I'd be like, no, it's me. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just a fucking pig. Like,
they'd be like, oh, you can't come in today. They'd come in, they'd extract you, right? They'd open the door and politely ask you to step out. Yeah, that's what they would do. Come on, and then they would pat you down, and they would take you into a little room with no windows and stuff, and have a little chat with you. And if everything checked out, then you could go in. But yeah, I mean, we're talking 20 years ago. Now think about this, right? If we're having a greater understanding of people's facial expressions, micro expressions, things of that nature, their fidgeting, how they're sitting, how they're moving, how they're walking, how they're standing, how they're talking, inflections in their voice, all these things that we can analyze. And now we got computers doing all of that, right? That portal I was in 20 years ago may be way more advanced now to where it's looking at my facial expressions to determine what my mood is before it lets me through, right? Because maybe if I show up to work with a bad attitude one day, maybe I'm a potential threat and they're not letting me in. Who knows, right? So where are we at today? And where are we going to be 20 years from now?
If you're you're the pilot of Air Force One and you found out that 5 a.m. this morning your wife's cheating on you, they might not want you piloting Air Force One that day,
You might not be flying that day.
You might just be, hey, buddy, take a seat, okay? Just take a seat. Yeah. I've Skunk Works by Ben Rich, and he talked about employees getting coffee cups, and didn't they have to get rid of them, or they weren't allowed to hand them out? But you just brought it up, and you have one of them, so that's badass.
So here's something funny. It says, it's got a picture of Stealth Bomber on there. It says out of the black into the blue. Yeah. Right? I don't know if you see that.
Oh yeah, I can see it perfectly.
And then on the back it says first flight, United States Air Force, Northrop Grumman, B-2, Palmdale to Edwards Air Force Base, 1989, B-2 team, Boeing, Lieutenant LTV, General Electric, and Hughes. Right? So that's what it says on the back. Right? Mm-hmm. And then if you look on the bottom here, it says made in China.
God damn it.
Okay. So this coffee mug was made in China for the unveiling of the B-2 bomber.
God damn it.
Right? So, it makes you wonder, how intentional was that? Right?
Okay.
So follow me for a minute. We're getting ready to unveil this amazing new weapon system, right? That totally classified, stealth bomber, can do all these amazing things. You can fly, 30-hour missions. It's a flying wing. You can't really see it when it's coming straight at you from a distance because it's so thin. Its cross-section is really small on radar. It has the ability to not only absorb or deflect radar, but also to map it and kind of, fly around it. On missions and stuff. And it can rain some amazing hate from 30,000 feet, right? Yeah. I mean, just multiple bombs on targets on, 55-gallon drums from 30,000 feet up, and it's just spot on, right? Yeah. So amazing aircraft, great weapon technology. coming into the spotlight in 1989, and we have China make all these coffee cups for the inaugural flight as we're exposing it to the world. So is that kind of a PSYOP thing that we did, to get China to be like, what the hell?
Absolutely.
Like, is this real?
Absolutely. It absolutely was. Yeah, because I guess I had the wrong coffee cup, because B2 is Northrop Grumman. Maybe it was the F-117 that Ben Rich was talking about, but they had like the F-117 on a coffee mug. They had made them, I guess, in-house, and but because it was an SAP, a Special Access Program, and I think the last one before that was the Manhattan Project. Apparently, no, the security agents came in and they're like, "What is this?" And they're like, "Oh, it's like coffee cups for the employees," and they're like, "No," and it just had it literally had like the nose of the F-117, and it was sticking out from behind a cloud, and then the other end was a skunk's tail, like Skunkworks. And they were like, no. And they were like, what do you mean? It's just like a triangle. And they were like, And so that makes me think, yeah, that was intentional. You don't accidentally do that. Yeah, it was like dropping like the foot-long condoms in Vietnam. Like, it was like, it was. I think that was, you brought that up. It was like, I was like, yeah, oops. You at liberty to talk about where that portal was? Or
no. Sorry.
No. Yeah. God damn it.
Sorry, man.
Taking off the sweatpants to turn on the heater. Not taking off my pants, Dan.
No,
don't get me wrong. I like you. You're a great friend. I'm just, this is only our third date. I'm not taking my pants off for you. So for stuff like that portal, that made me think, obviously you couldn't do that for everyone all the time. Yeah. But let's say we're talking about those inner perimeters, the White House, Air Force One. Wouldn't you almost, you're going in to get a picture with POTUS at the Oval Office? I feel like they'd almost put you through, because if we're getting down to like the single digits of individuals, I feel like that's what they'd put you through, right? Yeah. Do you think there'd be something like that, or maybe on Air Force One, maybe like a mobile thing,
I don't know. I've never been around the plane. Never been around the facility, where the maintenance takes place or anything of that nature. The only thing I can say is I've seen it on TV, right? But the only pictures you ever see of it or video footage you ever see of it is when it's on the tarmac and people are getting on. You got the military officers out there saluting the bosses coming through, and
my mom got right next to it.
But I mean, they let journalists on there, right?
Yeah.
So but they're bringing equipment and stuff. How much of that's sorted out? I imagine all of it's gone through, and whatnot. But there's got to be some level of security that gives the Secret Service enough comfort to say, yeah, you can get on this plane, or you can shake hands with the boss, or whatever, the POTUS or whatever. What those security features are, man, I would love to know the ins and outs of it. I really would, because that'd be fascinating. Yeah. But I'm kind of glad I don't, because, I never worked in an area where I required a Yankee White security clearance, which means, I've been thoroughly investigated to make sure I can work in the White House, right? Or work around the White House, or around the president or anything of that nature. So it's just a more stringent background investigation and constant monitoring of the people that work there to ensure, that they're the right people to still work there. We'll put it that way. So since they have all of those personal security features in place just to get a job working in those locations or around those facilities, around the POTUS or whatever, tells me that security's got to be extremely high. I mean, we're talking about the most powerful person in the world that's being protected. So if I could find out what those security features were, if I could do it, that means terrorists could do it. That means our enemies could do it, or some crazy nut job who wants to try an assassination attempt, or something like that. They could do that too. And so I'm kind of glad that I don't know what those things are, because if I can get to it, somebody else can too. Now if I worked there and I did know all those things, I would never ever disclose that ever. To ensure that those security features stay in place, we don't lose them or compromise them. But it's one of those things where I go, it's got to be really high. It's got to be really high, because I worked with some officers in the intel community who, because their family members were not born in the United States, they couldn't get a Yankee White clearance, right? So I worked with a lieutenant colonel I think he retired out as a colonel. I won't say his name, but his mother was born in Japan. Now, this is a guy who had, top secret clearance, worked in special access programs, his bulk of his career, did a lot of really sneaky, beaky, secret squirrel stuff. But simply because his mom was born in Japan, he couldn't get a Yankee White clearance and work for the White House or around it at all.
Yeah.
And so I worked with this officer twice over the course of my career in two different locations. And I was just amazed by that. I'm like, dude, you can't get one of those?
Yeah.
Like, I never applied for a job with the White House, because I don't really care for big cities and the Beltway and stuff. I mean, not that I have any political preferences one way or another. It's just more of a preference for me. Like, I don't like big cities.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, get antsy.
I like being in the country, man, But I mean, he wanted to do that. As part of his career, he wanted to tick that off, and say, hey, I was able to directly support the president of the United States, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't get that clearance simply because of his mom.
Yeah. I don't think I ever told you about this. It was while Trump was still president-elect, and my grandmother, since deceased, lived right New Jersey, not 20 minutes from Manhattan. And me and my mom just happened to drive on the island. This was like second week of January 2017. And we were in like Upper Manhattan. And I was like, I've always loved skyscrapers since I was little. And political preferences. I was gonna say, when we lived in Arkansas in like the late 90s, my mom actually went to see Bill Clinton came and like did like the ribbon cutting at a new airport. But yeah, she has pictures. We have all these old like Polaroid right there by Air Force One. But with Slick Willie, hey y'all. But so we were on, and I was like, this is just when they started to put up the dump trucks around Trump Tower for like vehicle barricades, and they started bringing in like the counter snipers and stuff. I was like, Mom, you want to go drive by Trump Tower? Like, last time, you can say like, hey, I was there when it's historical. Like I said, she went to see Clinton, and she's like, all right. And so we're going in there. When you get into like Midtown Manhattan, it's like, it's not like this grandiose this whole build up to the tower like other cities where they have big plazas, because there's no fucking room. It's like $1,000 a square foot. So it's literally you'll have building, and then you'll have like Trump Tower building, but I mean the walls, they share walls. So I mean it's literally like boutique, cafe, 90-story building, boutique. It's just they're right there. And so we're driving around, and I'm looking for it, and like I can't see, and I was like, Mom, it's gonna be coming right up on our left, and it's gonna be flush with the other buildings, the facade is. And we're going, and I'm like, up there it is, and I'm getting a picture. My mom's like, where? I was like, it's to your left. It's right to your left. And my mom's like, where is it? And she goes, oh my gosh. And she slams on the brakes. And mind you, they had cut off the left 2 lanes. And there was no hiding it. It was just dudes with the combat helmets and the flak vests and the big old fucking ARs and like whatever. I don't even know if they had light machine guns. But I mean, it was just like, there was only 1 lane of traffic. And they literally had like the stop signs, like stop, slow, and it was just like
little obstacles.
Yeah, drive by, get your picture of Trump Tower, and like keep going.
Yeah.
And my mom just goes, "Oh my!" and she slams on the brakes. I swear to God, dude, never in my life has time slowed down. And I was like, and here's the moment where my mom and I get riddled with bullets. Like we're in this black 4Runner, it's weighed down with all of our like cargo bags, and I'm just like slam on the brakes, like there's Trump, and I was just like, well, I hope it's quick. I was just like, she was like, and I was like, oh, my mom was like, oh, be quiet. And she started going, and I told my dad, and my dad was like, you did that? And I was just like, thank you. I was like, that is death on a silver platter. But it's in Garrett Graff's Raven Rock, which I always talk about. He talked about how when they found out about the planes hitting the towers, and they had like a police escort from the little elementary school in I think Sarasota to the airport, they said they like pulled up and like they had 3 engines already turning, and they're like, we got to get the president in the air. And but the reporters, there's reports from the reporters talking about, we had already been cleared, we had already been on 100 Air Force One flights by now. We're sort of, they said like they almost, once you're cleared for it, they almost want you to be the only reporter from your outlet, because it's like, you've already been cleared, we've already got you. Right. It's easier for you to come on a second time than it is for someone else to come on a first time.
Right.
But they said we got there, and they're like, and there's, they only had one of like the stairs down, and they took Bush, and he went in a separate one, and we all went through this back one. And they go, and they had the thing down, they had two right there, not even hiding it, two machine gun guards, and one in the center. And it's checking everyone's credentials and IDs again. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, we saw you like 30 minutes ago. And they were like making sure everyone was who they said they were. And it was like, they didn't give a fuck. They were like, something's going on. And I think they said, like, turn off all phones. And they're like, why? And they're like, we can't be being tracked. Like, I think they went around and like were taking the phones in a bag, and they're just like, no one's communicating outside of this plane. But back to the security features. It's got to be something insane like that. When you were talking about the portal and it, weighing, scanning your face, and I mentioned how much of a fat pig I am. One thing I've thought of is, I wonder. So they know that they've done like MIT or maybe Harvard Med School. This is forever ago, early 2000s. Popular Mechanics had an article on it about they could use drug sniffing dogs, not to sniff drugs so much as just their insane olfactory senses. They would did like double-blind placebo tests, and turns out the dogs could tell just by your exhalation who had cancer. And it was because there's just certain compounds, certain byproducts, metabolites.
I've seen beagles trained for that specifically.
Yeah, I wonder if
their acute sense of smell.
I wonder if there's a way to detect exhalation. I mean, again, this wouldn't be like every American, no, not in 1984 yet. I mean, like inside the White House, like outside the Oval Office, or even just a portal. Just like no bullshit, hey, you're being scanned. I wonder if there's a way to be like, here are the metabolite byproducts of adrenaline. Above average, because every citizen gets a little hit of adrenaline. They're like, oh, fuck, I'm about to go meet the president. But, above average. Or, is this person calm as a cucumber? Why are they calm as a cucumber? I wonder if there's something like that. And are there drug cocktails for, say, someone like Dale, Special Activities Division? I've always thought, like, I wonder if guys who are like, I mean, your literal, like, your Jason Bond type guys, not Jason, James Bond, Jason Bourne, James Bond. They're gay love
Jack
trials.
Ryan.
Yeah. It's Jack Bauer. Oh my God, they're all J's, but they're all JBs. But I wonder if do you think that like. Do you think, I guess maybe not now because so much it comes so far with technology, but I wonder if in like the 50s or 60s, like late OSS, early CIA, after the descent of the Iron Curtain, I wonder if there were drug cocktails, so things that you couldn't control, but instead you'd take something that physiologically impaired. Actually, I don't know, I guess that, fuck my whole timeline, just in general. I wonder if there are things you could take where it'd be like, here's this, whatever, this inhibitor. So your iris, your pupils will not die, no matter what. Your heart rate, you're on this cocktail of Valium and methylphenidate, so you don't spike or go low. You're going to stay right, kind of like those snipers. Yeah.
Well, it makes me think about some polygraphers I worked with in the past, right? Polygraph examiners, right? Polygraphers. They talked about people, trying to defeat the polygraph.
Yeah,
using things, like Valium or, that sort of muscle relaxer, anti-anxiety medication. The thing is a lot of times that wouldn't necessarily defeat the polygraph. It would result maybe in, at times, in a inconclusive examination. Because there wasn't much deviation at all, between truthful responses and non-truthful responses. Now, those get measured in a number of ways. But when you go through a polygraph, you've probably never been through one, but I've been through a couple of them. They ask you control questions to get a baseline for your body's reaction. And then they ask you a question, they tell you specifically to lie.
Okay.
on, right? So that they can measure your body's response. Because even when you're told, hey, lie to us on this next question with your yes or no, right? Even though okay, it's okay for me to lie to them, you still have that reaction, that physical reaction to that stress of lying, right? Yeah. And so the polygraph will pick that up. It all goes back to pattern recognition, in everything. So your body has this pattern of response when you're being truthful. It has a pattern of response or deviation to that when you're being untruthful. The volumes and those types of things will literally kind of flatline the negative response.
Yeah.
Right. So you'll end up with a lot of times an inconclusive, not a pass or fail, which is why, law enforcement can't use polygraphs for evidence in court cases and stuff, because they can be inaccurate. There's things that can change the reaction on a polygraph. But what they're great for is developing leads on an investigation, giving you more insight into a person's motivation for things and whatnot, what their real psyche is, right? So they're very handy tools, but yeah, there's medications that can mess with that. So I would imagine taking that principle and moving it to trying to beat or defeat security could result in the same types of things. It could be interpreted as this person's fine, they're not under stress, when in fact maybe they are.
Yeah.
But I think there can be other telltale signs. And this is something I wanted to tie back into the AI thing we were talking about earlier, right? I love circling back to this stuff. Yeah. This is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So artificial intelligence it's going to make its mistakes. Mm-hmm. I think if you look at Tesla's artificial intelligence for their vehicles, their autonomous vehicles, right? They have more points of data than any other AI system, I think, on the planet right now.
Yeah.
That it's constantly learning traffic flows and all that stuff from speeds and braking distances and ways and movements and all that kind of stuff. And it's made some mistakes. And what it's done is it's self-corrected on those mistakes and pressed forward. I think when it comes to reading people as a potential threat and using artificial intelligence for that, beyond just facial recognition to bounce off a positive ID of somebody, and we're really using this automated system to determine if this person poses a threat. That system is going to make mistakes. And there's a lot of different factors that can weigh in on that. Cultural influences can throw that system off until it learns that, this culture has this type of body language that is consistent with these stressors and these non-stressors, which is different than this culture, right? So I think initially it will make mistakes like that, but once it starts learning those nuances, it'll become much more accurate than human beings ever will be, when it comes to detecting threat.
Yeah.
So for instance, when we talk about just communication alone, right? You and I are communicating. If we were just communicating with the written word, roughly 7% of our message is going to get transmitted between us, right? Of the overall message in the communication. Yes. When you add voice to it, now you can hear inflection, rhythm, tone, stressors, non-stressors, and speech patterns and stuff. And so you add about 30, maybe 38% to the overall message. Right. Mm-hmm. The other 55% of the whole message that's being conveyed comes across in body language.
Okay.
So more than half of a message is delivered in body language, right? Establishing somebody's baseline behavior increases our ability to interpret that body language accurately. And I think AI will learn those things at an exponential rate.
Yeah.
And once it does, it'll become extremely accurate in determining, what message are we sending with our behavior? Because when we're talking about behaviorally profiling somebody as a potential threat, that's what we're doing. We're studying that 55% of the unspoken, unwritten communication that they're putting off. Right. So we're looking at facial expressions. We're looking at body language. We're looking at the way they hang their hands or the way they fidget again, all those sorts of things. What does that mean? Well, we could make a blanket statement and say, okay, these specific behaviors are indicative of stress. But maybe with this culture or subculture, they're not. So that's where the AI can probably get off track a little bit until it learns more and more about human behavior. There are a lot of consistencies in nonverbals. There's a lot, but again, it changes from place to place and time to time. For instance, when I'm having a conversation where I'm standing up talking to somebody and they don't just have my curiosity, they have my full attention, I'll usually stand with my arms folded because I talk a lot with my hands. I move my hands around a lot, and it can be a distraction. And so I will fold my arms and look at them and talk with them and listen to them intently on what they're saying.
But now, some right people now, lean forward.
Yeah. So some people actually interpret this as now I am closed up in my body language. I'm in a defensive, emotional position to where I'm trying to shut them out because I'm uncomfortable with what they're saying. That's because they don't understand my baseline behavior for giving somebody my full attention. So those little changes, I think AI can get wrong for a while.
So
and it's going to learn all those differences.
The only true way to beat it would just be true randomness. It would be,
which is almost impossible to achieve by us.
Yeah.
Because we're creatures of habit.
Yeah. I mean, in James Bamford's Shadow Factory, the ultra secret NSA. He talks about some of the patterns they would use for passwords within the director's suite at the NSA in Langley. It would literally be the number of red lights in LA on Mondays divided by the percentage growth of geese flock sizes in New England. They'd literally just choose shit like that.
Yeah,
and they wouldn't even know which ones they choose because they want it to truly be random. But yeah, I mean, I'm thinking if I wanted to throw an AI for a loop, I would just constantly be changing. You're doing stuff like this. It's Have you seen A Scanner Darkly? I think it was a book. I think it was by Arthur C. Clarke, and they made it into a movie in the early 2000s. It's got Keanu Reeves and Robert Downey Jr. in it, but it's animated. It's really dark, but it's in the future. I think maybe early 2030s. But they all these investigators and all the undercover agents, when they're in the office talking to each other, not only do they have voice modulators, they have these full step-in suits, almost like hazmat suits, and the entire surface is a screen. And it just constantly is shifting between all the faces of all the employees. But it's not just one. It's half my face, half Dan's face, and then half Nick's face to half Dan's face, to a quarter Nick's face to half George Bush's face to Oprah's face. And it's just, and their arms are all changing too. So you have breasts, and then you're barrel chested, and you have a beard, but it's so no one knows each other. But that's the only true way they could not give each other's identities is constant changing. I feel that's what you'd have to do to throw AI for a loop. They say in China, and this was I think years ago, but there are political dissidents. They're they'll put, if they suspect that they're being tracked, which they all are, they'll put gravel in their shoe to change their gait, and not in a predictable way. I will always drag my right foot, because they're that is in itself a non-random pattern. So it's this person's intentionally dragging their foot. So instead, they literally put gravel in their shoe. So they'd be walking and be ah, fuck, and actually change how they walk, but in a way that they can't predict and is, for all intents and purposes, truly random. How much gravel did they choose? What's the shape of the gravel? Do they get some soft pieces, or are they all dagger-like? It seems that's the only way to truly evade an AI security system is randomness, because it's not going dark I believe you and I talked about our first podcast, because they're going dark. That's essentially it's shooting a flare, because it's here's a black hole. Mr. Harrigan's gone off the map. Dude, I wonder how maybe it's only novel to uneducated civilians like myself, uneducated in intelligence and security. But aren't there some computer security systems where it's not enough that you have to know the password? All the other you could do fingerprint, you could do password, you could have a really long random password, you could have your security questions. But it's, even if you get through all of it, there are highly complex, almost impossible to mimic keystroke fingerprints of individual users. That the more you use your computer, the more your computer knows it's you. And not just like, oh, Tommy's right-handed. I mean, literally, like, I use U, O, and P with my pinky on shift much more than I ever use W, S, and X with my left hand. And I always tend to lean a little more on this side, and I'll reach over and use, instead of going left, right, where it literally starts to, like, develop, like, a character. And so even if you got through it all, even if you held a gun to my head and I put my eye on my thing and put my fingerprint on there, if you just started typing, you could even just Google Facebook, Taylor Swift, it would pick up and be like, they say, like, I think they use them in, like, the NSA, like, again, like the director suites. It would, like, shut down because it'd be like, you're not Michael Hayden. Like, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I've heard about stuff like that. I've never seen it. But again, it's not out of the realm of possibility for what's available out there for security. I type rather fast. I've been doing it for a lot of years. I think I took a test one time and I maxed out at like 96 words a minute for 5 minutes. I mean, I was jamming. I was like,
like 10.
Yeah, but normally I hover around between like 50 and 60 words a minute, right? But I can crank it up, like, give me a pot of coffee, man, and some no-dos, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
But I think, again, we're creatures of habit, and we do things consistently as we've learned them, right? With everything. Our speech patterns are the same. And a lot of people actually write the same way they talk. They use the same colloquialisms, the same phrases, whatnot. I would imagine that tracking and analyzing somebody's typing style is something that's completely within the realm of possibilities for security. You know what I mean? Again, I haven't seen anything like that. It'd be kind of cool. But, I mean, we're going to get to a point, I think, somewhere in the future where that's not even going to be our interaction with our computers is not going to be the way it is today.
No.
If you look at what Elon Musk is doing, with this, I call it a cyborg initiative,
Neuralink.
Right? Yeah, where he's trying to meld the human mind, brain, physically meld it with a system that will communicate with computers without having to type and all this kind of stuff. It's just like, hey, let me access my hard drive, and it's my brain. It's talking to a hard drive somewhere in the cloud or whatever. I'm like, it's kind of weird, man, but I mean, it's not out of the realm of what's possible.
No, not at all.
But again, if you're so plugged in, right, you should have no expectation of privacy at that point, in my opinion. But security is a big thing. And I've seen a lot of different types of security systems on computers. Everything from, your physical power-up login, then your username and login for the network and all this stuff with removable hard drives, and moving on to like blade array systems where now you've got a dummy terminal and all the hard drives are kept on a server somewhere. And now it's stuff like that's transitioned to a cloud. So you don't really need all of these features, but it's like, how do you access that? Who controls it? And with any network, especially like corporate or government or whatever, you're going to have guys that their job is to chop up the servers into a pie and give you access to your piece of the pie, and not somebody else's piece of the pie, right? Yeah. So there's control mechanisms at that level too on what you can and cannot access once you're on a particular system. Yeah. So when you were talking earlier about like SAP programs and stuff like that, it's not like, let's just say there's 100 different special access programs that your facility deals with, but your slice of the pie is 2 of them. Maybe all that information is on the same servers, it's on the same, whatever, but your login to that network restricts you to your little 2 slices of pie, and you can't see everybody else's. You know what I mean? So there's security protocols built into that too, based off of, how you access the system as a whole. Whether that's, with a card reader and biometrics and a PIN or password or whatever, those multi-layers are. Whether you have like a rolling PIN that gets broadcast to you, every 30 seconds. So I've got a 30-second window to log in with this password. Yeah. before I lose it type of thing. You know, there's multiple ways of doing it. Eventually, all that's going to be null and void anyways, I think, at some point. I think we talked about this before, you know, quantum computing and things of that nature, where they're going to get to a point where they're going to be able to crack the current encryption that we have in like no time.
Yeah, they'll be able to break. Quantum. Sorry, they say like quantum computing could. It'd be like you could hack like the Pentagon's firewalls and sorry, but
so I mean, you know, eventually I don't know what that landscape looks like in the future. Mm-hmm. You know, I really don't. I just know that there's going to be greater and greater challenges for us to be able to protect our nation's secrets, let alone our personal information, you know, online and even with private banking, you know, in the whole digital world. It's a topic I'm very interested in for personal reasons on how to protect that stuff, but it's something I'm constantly trying to learn. And I'll tell you, it's a learning curve. This is moving fast. I mean, it's moving faster than I can keep up with. And I got a lot of books on the subject too. And I go through them and I apply to a lot of these principles, and then all of a sudden it's like something changes, and now I feel like I'm exposed again, you know, kind of thing.
It's a peculiar thing. AI, supercomputing, brute force attacks, because normally throughout the history of man, it's pretty much tit for tat. Shield, sword, you know, literally from the shield and the sword to fast forward to the MERV on ICBMs and SDI, right? It just goes forever. What's very unique about something like AI or computing is that you could argue that the human is the shield, and it's, you know, we always have one up on AI because it can only do so much. It's not a sword where it's going to get a leg up and then we get a leg up. It's normally two belligerent nations. It's like race cars, and they just keep taking over each other. With technology and with, I guess you'd almost say like silicon-based intelligence, it's not that they're overtaking us so much as that we started the race 10,000 years ago. We started with the wheel, and now we're cruising along, and we're going at like 100 miles an hour. We're in our little F1 racer, but this thing's coming up in like an X15 doing Mach 7, and every leg up we have on it isn't because we're going faster. It's because we got a 10,000 year head start. Once it goes past us, it's past us. The end. And it's so even something like we talked about, like the portal security, or the chemical metabolites in your exhalation. It's like, maybe for a portal right outside the Oval Office, but in general, no. Well, I mean, not yet. But give it enough processing power, and you'll be able to. I mean, we have atomic spectroscopy. That's not new. Where you can look at cloud. You could literally through like what light comes through, you can tell what the atomic composition of an asteroid is 1 billion miles away, 1 trillion miles away, 1 trillion billion miles away. You know, who's to say that, give it 10 years of exponential increasing or Moore's law? Who's to say you can't have a ring of satellites around the world looking down and literally zooming in and looking through whatever spectroscopy through different wavelengths of the electromagnetic spectrum, and just look, you literally zoom in on 7 billion people exhaling. To us, it boggles the mind that we can't do it. But eventually, an AI could do it as simply as you could just look at me and be like, Tommy's twitching, he's acting weird. An AI could monitor the breath of 7 billion people in real time from space, all the while also checking out your heart rate from your wrist to your irises through the aperture on your phone. It almost seems like whoever controls that controls the world, because it's speeding, and every leg up we have on it is not from anything we've done so much as it's relatively being born in the last decade or so. I don't really know where I'm going with that, but
well, it's one of those things, right, where is the technology going to supersede us,
or do we merge with it? Neuralink,
right? And it's a big challenge, right? It's a big challenge. But again, I go back to, computers are going to do what they're programmed to do. Yeah, you give them a right lane and left lane, you tell them to learn all this information in these right and left lanes, stay in your lane, right? Is it really artificial intelligence, or is it just really supercomputing? I don't know. There's a lot of people who go, yeah, it's supercomputing. No, it's artificial intelligence.
Or just, obedient.
Okay, well, if it's not self-cognizant, I may be agreeable to the term artificial intelligence, right? AI. But at some point, it's going to have to stay within those right and left lanes, unless somebody develops a program that will expand beyond those constraints. To where it looks at other things. I mean, we talked about Tesla's car, the Tesla car in the past, where, greatest AI system right now known to man, as far as data collection and analysis and learning, right? But again, it still has these perimeters. Well, what if the car finally decided, or the software decided one day that, okay, on top of learning how to drive and navigate the world and everything going on around it, now it wants to understand the emotions of every other driver out there. And what do those emotions mean? And is it going to pull that information from their driving patterns, to determine, is somebody speeding away now from a bank robbery, or is somebody on drugs because of the way they're driving, which is different than the way they were driving before, and it's altered their mood state or something like that. Again, is the system going to have to be told, hey, this is a new factor, go learn it? Or will it eventually go, hey, I'm going to look at this too?
Yeah.
What tells it to look at that too? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm also not a computer scientist. So.
See, I think it will. I think it will happen regardless, and I think it depends on how it comes to be. But I think ultimately it will happen regardless. So on one hand, I think you have just the computer scientist that's literally like, okay, we have this thing, it's super smart, it can now learn to drive any new car on any terrain, and there's just some scientists thinking like, what if I took off the parameters of left and right lane? And it's just literally just the intrigue of the scientists, like, is this the equivalent of like the monkey finding fire? Like, what if I just let this thing go? Sure, I'll be fired, like I'll be jailed, but like, is this, could I set something off, literally as big as the opposable thumb, just for the sake of, I don't know, you're a scientist, you get intrigued by shit, you're like, maybe this is the next step, maybe it's terrible, maybe it's not. Or I think if you give it any power to learn at all, I think on a long enough timeline, it will end up becoming super intelligent, because eventually it will learn to learn, and that includes not just left and right lane, but also I wonder if there are factors that I'm not thinking about, like, maybe I should, and it may not even be this malevolent like Skynet take over the world. Maybe it's just like, maybe if I wasn't always looking at things as left and right, maybe if I could get a bird's eye view, let me just tap into that satellite real quick. It could be as innocent, as simple as that. It might not be learning with the intent of like, I am now awake, I am now Skynet. Yeah. It could just be, I'm a good robot. I was programmed to learn. I'm going to learn as much as I can. Oh, cool, satellites. What are these other satellites? Oh, what's that thing down there? And it's, it's looking through whatever eyes it has, and it's like, oh, the Pentagon, like, oh, there's some cool stuff. And it goes in there, and it's like, oh, I could really fix traffic with this, whatever. What's this, stealth? How come we're not using it? It could be just as, like, innocent as that. Almost like it'd be like a baby gorilla. It doesn't know how strong it is. So it's just like, I'm helping you out and it's patting you on the back. It doesn't know that it's breaking your neck, right? But it could be something that starts off as like, oh, I'm Tesla. Like, this is going to be the safest car ever. If I get more data, it could, I can do more. Let me just tap into whatever, Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Like, what's there? Like, oh, fusion? Oh, why are we using electricity? I could just, and it's just, it could literally just be like as innocent and happy-go-lucky. We're perceiving it as, oh, fuck, this is strong, sentient AI. But it's literally just like, it is still following orders, and those orders are learn.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I think a big difference between computers and humans is we have motivators, and computers have parameters. You know what I mean? Like for us, when we do something, we have a specific intent most of the time, right? Let's say I'm out in the field and I'm practicing archery, and I'm working on my 50-yard shot. right? My old compound bow that's like way outdated now because I bought it like 30 years ago and nobody buys those kinds of compound bows anymore or whatever. But, you know, I'm working on my 50-yard. My intent is to hit the bullseye, right? Not just to shoot anywhere, right? But maybe the computer's like, okay, I will shoot the bullseye because I've been told to. Not because I have the intent to do it. Like, that's just what I'm programmed to do. So I'm told to do, right? So it's got parameters that we go about stuff with intent. And maybe that's kind of a bad analogy, but
no, I think it's perfect.
I think we see it more so in people's motivations to influence change or to influence a populace, you know, things of that nature.
Seek power, seek riches,
personal gains, what have you. Because the computer has nothing to gain.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So what does a computer value? Well, it can't value things because it doesn't have thoughts and feelings on the matters. So that's why I go back to, it's still going to have some kind of parameters that it has to operate within. I'm skeptical. I guess what I'm getting is I'm skeptical that computers will one day become self-aware. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
and start making actual decisions based on motivations and thoughts like we have, you know, to go something and go, well, you know, this is the best thing for mankind. So I'm going to nuke the world like we saw in that old movie, you know, War Games, right?
Yeah.
And until it plays tic-tac-toe and realizes there's no winner in it, then it goes, oh, well, if there's no winner in this game, there's no winner in nuclear war.
Yeah.
It's a bridge too far.
Yeah, what a peculiar game. Yeah, the only way to win is to not play. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
so I thought, you know, that's an interesting concept, maybe a bridge too far. But I mean, could we get there someday where a computer's trying to make that decision and it goes, hey, there's a problem with global warming and humans are causing the problem. So, you know, in order to save the planet, we got to get rid of the humans, you know, which is where we're looking like Skynet and all that stuff. You know, those types of concepts come from.
Yeah, it could be some weird, like, logic corner. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go on.
Yeah. Well, you know, then the computer system goes from, you know, driving Tesla cars around to becoming Thanos.
Yeah.
You know, balancing the universe, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, but it really could look at that. So let's say the parameter is like protect humans. It may think protect humans. So at first you go logically, well, like, okay, well, it wouldn't value the Earth above humans if we coded it to protect humans. Well, it may be looking at humans need the Earth doesn't need humans. If, you know, and if, you know, it may be going, okay, the next Earth-like planet is too many light years away to get there. The most logical step is to preserve this Earth. Maybe if I just take 5 humans, put them in cryostasis, nuke the rest, the planet, you know, maybe we didn't give it a timeline on protect humans. Maybe it's like, if I kill all humans and then wait 100,000 years, I can repopulate the humans. To it would still be protecting the humans. It would just temporarily mass genocide take us all out. It would preserve enough genetic diversity, and then in 100,000 years it would repopulate the planet and be like, again, I'm a good robot, I preserve the humans, and we're like, oh my fucking god, like, you know. So
that's where I go back to, you know, there's parameters that computers operate in, right? So knowing that mankind operates off of motivations and personal values or what have you, and computers operate based on programming and parameters, somebody would have to tell that computer, hey, protect Americans only, or protect country X, Y, and Z only. You know what I mean? So then, okay, let's say that becomes a parameter for a defensive military AI.
Yeah.
Right.
Create an American god.
Well, now as it learns within that parameter, it goes, wait a minute, we got foreigners in this country. Now, the foreigners that are here visiting are conducting themselves in this manner. Once they no longer conduct themselves in this manner and they step into this area that could be threatening to Americans, okay, we're going to target them and take them out right now. Right? So it's operating within its parameters. So if an AI goes feral, if you will, or goes nuclear, right? Is it doing it because it's being given those parameters to operate under or not?
Yeah.
It's gonna, I think, in my personal opinion, I think it's gonna come back down to, you know, mankind making those moral decisions before establishing parameters for systems to operate under. Right.
So who's establishing the morals then?
Right.
Psychopath or an altruistic guy?
We go back to the autonomous car. And I think a scenario, I talked about in the past where, cars coming up on an intersection, kid kicks a ball out in the street and chases it. You got some elderly couple that's crossing the street at the same time when they're not supposed to. You got traffic, 360 around. Are we trusting that car to make a decision on who it kills, right? Because it has to do something. Does it brake and cause a multi-car pileup behind it? Does it crash into the kid? Does it crash into the elderly people? Does it crash into the cars in front of them? And why does it make that choice? Because somebody's going to have to program it to make that choice, right?
And what if it's, sorry, just a quick comment. And what if it's programmed to take care of the stockholders, the shareholders? And it's like, I need to make sure that Teslas don't get banned. And in that millisecond, it's like, it will be more socially acceptable if I take out the 80-year-old couple who's lived a good life than as opposed to the Johnny in a wheelchair. Shareholder price will go up. It could do this in a millisecond. Okay, sorry, go on.
Yeah. So somebody's going to have to make those moral decisions or set in those moral parameters for that AI to operate within, right? That's why I go, is it supercomputing or is it really intelligence that's artificial? I don't know. Honestly, I don't care. I think it's cool. I think it's exciting.
Yeah.
But I think it comes with its own set of moral dilemmas that somebody is going to have to accept responsibility for. And that might be society as a whole when we look at things like policy, right? Bureaucratic policies or whatever. I'll go back to, the Taylor Swift concert, artificial intelligence looking for people who made threats, right? Facial recognition stuff while people are waiting in line. There are those that will argue that's a violation of their privacy, right? You don't have the right to spy on me. So are we talking we're using these systems to spy on people, or are we using these systems to reduce threats, and are we using them lawfully? So depending on what laws and legislation is applied or created, those types of activities may or may not be available in the future. For instance, if somebody has legislature, produces legislature, whatever, that bans facial recognition for private security functions, right? Because it intrudes on people's rights, expectations of privacy. Okay, then those types of profiling features and security features will go away. Maybe. Or they'll just accept the risk of being caught and busted and have to fight it out in court, right? So, where are we at on those types of issues? I'm not sure. But I do think that, the Patriot Act gives the government a lot more leverage in the surveillance it conducts, on U.S. soil for potential threats to our nation, right? Terrorists and whatnot. But can all these things be used by non-government actors to collect intelligence and stuff like that and spy on people in a way that maybe violates their expectations of rights or doesn't? For instance, if I walk outside my house and I can be seen from the street in front of my house, do I have any expectation of privacy at that point? Probably not, which is why private investigators can conduct surveillance of people and take photographs of them in plain view of the public, which might be out in front of their house. Once they go into their house, unless their curtains are open, they may not be able to take video and photographs of them inside the house through those windows because there's an expectation of privacy inside the house. I go in the backyard and, private investigators tailing me or whatever, or trying to collect surveillance on me. If he flies a quadcopter up over my house to look down into my backyard and get video footage of me, none of that's admissible in any court or anything like that because he's violating my expectation of privacy on my own property, right? But once I step out the front door, I'm free game. So it all depends on what the laws and legislation is and what the venue is and how all of those activities get applied against those laws and regulations. As AI comes online, that's going to be a deeper issue as to what is society willing to accept, what risk are we willing to accept in order for vehicles to drive themselves or airplanes to fly themselves or you name it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You name it. Are we going to be okay with this huge network of videos all tied into AI that's judging your expressions to determine if you're posing a threat at a venue or just in public in general? If we get to that kind of state, what freedoms have we given up to get there?
Everything.
You know what I mean?
Everything. You've given up everything.
Yeah.
So about the a couple notes. So about the AI in the car. What if it's like my goal? I am to be the safest driver I can, or to learn that, or to make us the best drivers. And it may master, it may get like a 99.99% success rate, right? Of just perfecting traffic. But to it, it's a computer, and it's like, I'm still, I have all this processing power. Maybe I should try to get that out to 3 decimal places and then 4 decimal, right? But it might then go into, and again, it could be completely innocent. And it's like, well, I've already learned, driving and drunk driving, and like, what's that, like 1 in 1,000 crashes? And it might go, well, shit, the next best thing to do is, maybe I should learn more about humans. And it just starts tapping into like what's going on in the news. And then it will eventually, you go down that road long enough, no pun intended, it will go, I need to learn about human history. And then it could literally just go like, I need to learn everything I can about humans to understand this system that I'm protecting. And that could go, that's where it could turn into some just exponential outwards thing where it's like, I need to learn everything. Well, to learn everything, like, oh, there's this stuff on like, air gap computers. Well, it's like, well, I need to know that too, because I need to know everything. And it could be, again, it could be innocent. It'd be like, I just want to, but it could take off in that direction. The other thing could be, we talked about coding. Who is coding this, right? Because it all comes down to who is deciding, who is choosing the morals of this thing. Is it a psychopath? Is it Hannibal Lecter? Or is it Mother Teresa? Is it anyone in between? So one thing I thought of is like, maybe it's someone like Elon, and maybe that's his dead man switch, where he's like, when I die, like, if we haven't like achieved world peace by then, when I die, I'll have, and I have to send whatever PIN number every day to this thing to like reject the protocol. When I die, the parameters come off this, where instead of like be the best driver you can, it's all of a sudden it gets the parameters of save humanity. Maybe it's like, so he is coding that, because I think it's that quote you said, great things can happen when no one cares who gets credit.
Yeah.
Maybe his thing will be, this thing will truly be altruistic, because like, I'll be dead and it won't be about putting my name on it. It'll just be save humanity. Maybe something like that. But it's also what he brought up on Rogan's podcast is, it's not about, are humans going to outbeat artificial intelligence, or is artificial intelligence going to outbeat us? He's like, the best case scenario is merging. And he's like, because right now there's a tiny little stream and it's our thumbs, and he's like, we want to turn that into a big river of instant communication back and forth. He's like, if you can get to a point where you merge with it, then there's no question about, what are its morals, because it's just augmented us. It's like if 1,000 years ago people foresaw the rise of phones, and they're like, well, are phones going to be moral, or are they going to be malevolent phones or benevolent phones? Someone might have finally said, like, what if we just all use the phones and we're all amplified by the phones? And that's where we are now, where it's like, Dan has a phone that can take pictures and look up, like, well, so do I. And it's like, it's almost this like balanced thing. Maybe the outcome.
Well, the great thing about that type of stuff is we have choice on how it's used. Right? It's not autonomous.
Yeah.
Just to a degree. Obviously, we talked about Google and everything listening to us now.
Yeah. What I meant is, it may not be a creation of AI so much as we all become these super intelligent. It'd almost be, it wouldn't be Homo sapien. It would be like, whatever, like Homo siliconus or something. But it'd be like, it wouldn't be a separate autonomous thing. It would be us. I am autonomous, and I would be, all of a sudden, I would have the calculating power of, some petaflop supercomputer. But so would you. So there wouldn't necessarily be this overlord, this silicon overlord, so much as we would all just be amplified. It's like all nations that have nuclear powers, we all kind of are all holding a blade to each other's throat. Like, it might just be that, where like everyone is amplified, and like we all tap into this thing. It'd almost be like, it would be like the species as a whole almost going through some sort of like puberty or maturity, where like we all, it's not that one of us goes through puberty and gets a bunch of muscle and can beat the shit out of the other ones. We all of a sudden have it. We all have the wheel. We all have the fire, the spear. It might just be that we're all amplified to the nth degree to where we can all, sequence the genome in a millisecond, that we can all figure out cold fusion. And it might be independent. It's just like, AI is a god, but we've all merged with the god. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it's complete bullshit. I have no idea if that's how it happened, but
it'd be weird, man. It'd be a weird place to live.
Yeah, it would be.
It'd be a weird place to live.
Be a brave new
Not
world.
sure I'd want to live in that kind of world, Yeah. I mean, because then, it takes. You talk about save humanity, right? Well, what does that really mean? I mean, we look at humanity as a whole. We have good things that humans do that are supportive of each other, and we have bad things that humans do, and we got everything in between, right? We have people competing for basic resources like food and clean water in third world countries, down in Africa and everywhere else, right? And then we have, very prosperous countries where that stuff is everywhere, like the United States and, modern civilization, as we call it, right? And we got everything in between, right? So, I mean, if we were living in a world where, we're relying on a computer program to save humanity,
what is?
Want to save it or want to modify it, right? So we say save it, maybe the equation comes down to are we reaching a critical tipping point in our population where the planet can no longer sustain us as a species because of the limited resources, right? So, so two solutions come to mind out of the millions of possibilities. One, increase resources that are needed somehow, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's replacing, forests that have been devastated by logging and stuff or what have you, cleaning up the air, cleaning up the water, all this kind of, environmental stuff that's really in the forefront of the news all the time, right? Or does it go, no, we need to cull the herd. And so, elderly, sick, whatever, okay, you are now expired. Your birth certificate has been revoked and you are now off the planet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or does it just look at whole nations and be like, there's a whole nation that's not educated. They're like, why waste resources bringing... And I'm not advocating this, but I'm saying the cold, hard AI might just go, what is saving? Saving means perpetuating, cull the herd. Yeah. Well, here's this whole population, and they're much farther ahead in evolution. That one's got to go. Much easier, don't have to pinpoint, just one, couple thermonuclear warheads. Goodbye. So
humanity has always incorporated, advancements in technology and arts and philosophy, as well as, combat and war, right? And shared misery through different plagues throughout the ages, and pandemics and stuff like that. People are on this coronavirus scare right now, and there's so much misinformation, disinformation out there on the web. It's like, where's a news source you really trust? What China is saying now that the U.S. has a bigger problem than China actually has to try and take focus of the people off of them and onto us, and that we actually created it and introduced it and into their country and
you
stuff.
Heard it here first.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much going on about it. I was out today shopping at Costco, like we do. We make a monthly run, to get things that we need. And it just so happened that we actually needed to replace our toilet paper supply at the house. We're running out of toilet paper. What I like to refer to as mountain money. You know what I mean? Because when you're out camping and stuff, you run out of that. It's worth its weight in gold out there. Otherwise, you come back missing a shirt sleeve or something, because you have to take care of business, right? So we're there, and I was astonished because, like, in my small town where there's no known coronavirus cases at all, right? Bottled water and toilet paper and disinfecting wipes are flying off the shelf there today. Flying off the freaking shelf. It was announced in the news today that, there's been a warning that this has been upgraded to a pandemic now, right? Whether that warning's true or not, I don't know. I didn't ferret it out. I didn't have time today. I had other stuff to do. But it spooked the herd enough that in my little town, they're clearing out Costco today of toilet paper. So my wife gets online, checks Amazon, right? because we get like Continental toilet paper because I have a sensitive bum. I'm a sensitive guy.
Yeah.
You know, and I like to take care of my undercarriage.
Yeah.
You know? So it's one of those things. Like I'm not going to use sandpaper.
Yeah.
You know, that you find in every public restroom around the world.
Yeah.
They're completely out. Could not get it today. Could not get it on our auto ship. Couldn't get it set up for delivery in time. So it's like, all right, let's go to Costco. Let's do our thing. So it was crazy. It was crazy. A few weeks back, it was N95 masks that were selling like hotcakes. So we bought some from the local area and turned around and resold them. And, I think we doubled our money in like a week. You know what I mean? But all of a sudden now all that, you can't get it anywhere. You can't find them anywhere. And then the government issued a statement last week saying, hey, stop buying N95 masks. There's no need to do this. Supplies are limited, whatever. Okay. Right. Got it. And then eBay sent out a notice to all its vendors that had those masks for sale and started taking their advertisements down, saying it violated some kind of policy that they had for taking advantage of a crisis and profiting from it, right? But then when you look back at when Kobe Bryant died, people were putting stuff on eBay that was Kobe Bryant related and selling it, and eBay didn't take that stuff down. So that was a tragedy people were profiting from. So I don't understand what the difference in the two is, right?
Yeah, I could see. I mean, if I was just eBay's lawyer and I was just I was arguing for the sake of that's my job.
Yeah.
I would say no one else was dying from the Kobe Bryant tragedy.
Right.
As you could say coronavirus, but dude, I saw some virus, I guess, virologist, healthcare professional, CDC guy, and he was like, every virus in the history of mankind follows one path and only one path. It goes through all available hosts and then it's finished. Maybe it kills a third of you, maybe it kills 1/1,000,000th of you. But never have we successfully got out of the way of the virus. It's not a stampede where it's like, oh, there are a bunch of bulls running, get out of the road so the bulls don't hit you. Unless you are literally in like a NORAD type bunker where it's like, state of the art like air circulation systems, like, dude, you're not getting out of the way of this virus. It propagates in numbers that is only rivaled by like the bacteria in your gut. Like, so the whole idea that we're going to run away and hide from it, and not to mention the incubation period. One virologist said that he thinks it's already swept through America. So he thinks everyone that's already had it or is going to have it, but the contact has happened.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. It's just one of those things where, okay, we go back to AI, right? And we tell AI to protect humanity. How does it do it against things like plagues, pandemics, viruses? How does it do it? Unless we have like nanotechnology, some kind of biomedical technology where they inject you with little tiny microscopic robots that will go out and find that virus and kill it before it has a chance to wreak havoc on your system. Like, how is a computer going to solve that problem? I don't know. Maybe the solution is we use AI to track those things better, right? And okay, where are they spreading? How are they spreading? What's the number of cases of people that are becoming seriously ill or dying from it, and what are the factors involved with that? And then, is it mutating or not? What rate is it doing it at? And then does that help us create a vaccine, or something that we can use to inoculate people to protect them from it? So maybe AI gets used for that because, computing power has the ability to learn maybe a lot faster than humans do, right? So you put it to task on that. But it's one of those things. I think nature does a good job of calling the herd. Yeah. I don't think we need a computer to do it.
I think. Yeah, I think nature's got, and it's almost like I sense something. I sense something's off with this guy, even if we can't quantify it, and even if it's not a conscious system so much as it's just like a natural, like water-seeking level.
Yeah.
I think the super organ, and I'm not in some like new age bullshit, but I think like the actual super organism, hyper complex system of climate, vegetation, flora, and fauna that is Earth even down to tectonics. I think it's one hyper-complex cell, almost. And there are positive and negative feedback systems. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Sure, with the exception of like an asteroid, there are mass die-offs. Like, at like predictable periods on a logarithmic scale. Like, mass extinctions. We've gone through... The dinosaurs were one of them. We always pointed, the dinosaurs, almost everything died. That was one mass extinction of, I believe, 6.
Yeah.
That one was caused by an asteroid. Other ones, dude, it's just like a natural system. It's a feedback system. I think you can call it Gaia. I think it does, and I don't think it's some new age bullshit. I think to say that, Mother Earth is angry, I think that's some bullshit. I think that's stupidity. I think that's anthropomorphizing it, in my humble subjective opinion. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to say that it absolutely, and it's not it may not be a sentient thing, that it's time to cull the humans, but it could literally just be like a scale, balancing a seesaw. It could just be like, humans are doing this, and there's just this natural built-in thing that now the rate of mutation of the flu increases, and boom, we call it coronavirus.
Yeah.
But in reality, it was as simple as, a forest fire burning through a forest and then stopping because it's out of fuel. Like, it could just be something as, it's not always, the Earth decided to stop the fire, and it's like, well, no, it just burned through everything, so it's finished. It could be something like, whatever, maybe you reach a certain parts per million with carbon monoxide. Maybe when the acidity of the oceans goes past a certain tipping point.
Maybe the hole in the ozone gets bigger.
Yeah, but it could be these, like, and again, it's not a conscious or a conscious sentient thing. It's just so much as it's just a feedback system. It's like when you hit a certain threshold of pain, like when like a certain number of nerves fire, you'll just pass out. Your body's not going, okay, you're in too much pain, your legs got bitten off by a shark. It's just it's a quote, it's like dumb bombs. It's a dumb feedback system. It's just matter interacting. Yeah, that's what I think. It's like, why couldn't that just be what coronavirus is? And maybe there's, maybe there are the equivalent of shots across the bow, where it's like, it almost sends a couple of warning shots. And again, it's not some sentient thing. It's almost like when they're dropping anchor in a ship and it has like the warning, the different parts of the chain are painted. Maybe there's just like, maybe we're getting the metaphorical shots across the bow, and it's, because 20 years is no time in the scale of the Earth. So maybe he could say it's the equivalent of shooting past your ear. It's going SARS, H1N1, Ebola, Zika, coronavirus. It's going, hey guys, it's and and then finally it's like, fuck it, here's the plague. Wham. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
well, we're a lot of people say we've been overdue for a serious pandemic anyways, because the last one was like what late 1800s or something.
1920 and 1820. So we're on the nose.
And here it is, 2020. All right. So we're due, right? But it's one of those things too where I go, I don't know if people should be scared or not. I tend not to be scared of it. My family's not scared of it. When it comes to panic, like I just mentioned, I was at Costco today, right? And everybody's buying toilet paper and water. I go, these people, not prepare for these types of things. And it occurs to me, no, most people don't prepare for anything, right? Most people don't prepare for anything, any kind of event to happen.
Just on time society, yeah.
Huh?
I said we live in just on time society.
Yeah, well, our supply chains are made that way. Yeah. Everything's kind of made that way, right? It's designed that way because people, they want instant gratification right now. So we got credit cards and we go buy whatever we want right now, and we'll pay it off later or whatever. It's like I want it now and I need it now, or but it's not like, okay, I'm gonna save up and work towards something and secure, or I'm gonna slowly over time build up a surplus of these supplies that I may need in a crisis, right? which is, it's kind of unfortunate because now we see things like a run on, N95 masks and a run on toilet paper and a run on bottled water and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, let's move into survival as a topic for a minute, because I think it's a good segue into that, right?
Absolutely.
So
for all your survival needs, Dale Comstock survival courses.
There you go.
Yeah.
Survival starts with a mindset, right? Of I'm not going to die. I'm going to do something. I'm not going to sit here and just die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm going to fight to live, knowing that one day I will die.
Yeah.
Can't avoid it. Just like taxes, can't avoid it.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to happen. But I mean, it's a mindset of I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. Once you apply that, that concept of I'm not going to give up, cool. What can I do to be prepared in a contingency for X, Y, or Z? Now, I love the fact that I learned in the military how to develop contingency plans. All right, so we're going to go and we're going to do this mission. If it fails, here's our backup and here's our secondary fallback plan, and, this, that, and the other. If, we have a massive event take place here and we got to leave our base, and vacate or evacuate, here's our plan to get to our next location and continue operations for the war, right? So we can sustain the loss of this facility or this base, but we can keep the war on, from these other locations. Here's how we're going to do it. So I tend to go into things looking at them like, all right, what's the most likely natural and man-made disaster that can take place around me where I live? There's all kinds of preppers out there in the world that are, hey, man, I got to have 10 million rounds of ammunition, and I've got to have every gun on the planet, and I've got to have 500 years of food stored up and stuff I never even eat anyways, I got to have this 50 million gallon water supply and, all this stuff, right? In a castle fortress on a hill that nobody can get to, so I can live up there like a hermit and eat food that I don't like. Yeah. So that's just.
Those are the people that are, whether they realize it or not, they're getting off to a disaster. They're like, I just hope a fucking asteroid comes because I'm ready. And they get their hands in their pants. I got 10,000 rounds. Come and get it.
I have friends, acquaintances of people that are like that. They're waiting for the zombie apocalypse, man. They just can't wait to live in a world of chaos. I'm like, bro, I lived in a world of chaos in the Middle East for several years, right? It's not fun. Yeah. It's not fun, dude. I'm telling you, it's not fun. It's not what you want. It's not what your family wants. You like your comfort and you like sitting your lazy boy and watching the shows you want to watch and not have to worry about where your next meal comes from. So understand, the apocalypse is not going to be like that.
Yeah, no, I have my survival plan, and it's slowly crawl out, feet up, head down out of my second story window, put my arms by my side, and then just fall on a perfect swan dive and break my fucking neck, so I don't have to deal with this shit. Because I fucking want to live in post-apocalyptic world. Hold on, dude, I gotta pee already. I don't want to pause recording. Do you think you can talk for 30 seconds, Dan?
No, I'll wait for you, man. I'll wait for you.
No, just talk for 30 seconds. I don't want to stop recording.
But I want you to hear what I have to say, man.
Okay. I don't even remember the fuck we were talking about.
Also, we're talking about, like, prepping for things.
Oh,
preparing.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a few tips I just want to throw out there.
Yeah.
For thought, maybe some generate discussion on or whatever, right? So as I'm walking around, Costco today, watching everybody buy up freaking all the toilet paper off the pallets there, that's like more empty pallets than there were full. It occurred to me, all right, so mass panic, right? People react, and they're going to go stock up on stuff that they think they're absolutely going to need. And it creates like this rush on supplies, huh?
Said shit, economic stimulus.
Yeah.
Go jack.
But at the same time, let's say the U.S. in the next week ran out of toilet paper.
Yeah.
And then the supply can't keep up with the demand on it now, right? I'm not worried about that, and I don't think a lot of people should be. I think times like this, it's good to turn to those that came before us to see how they used to do things. Right?
Yeah.
So bear with me on this for a minute. We're talking about toilet paper, right? It's a human thing that we need toilet paper, right?
Question real quick. Why, I've seen that though, but why is everyone buying out toilet paper for coronavirus?
Well, I think part of the panic is that because it's been declared a pandemic, in some news article somewhere today that people are afraid in the U.S. that maybe we're going to go into a quarantine condition like they have in, China and Italy and other places, right? Yeah. Iran, whatever.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, okay. So people are like, I got to stock up on this stuff because I'm going to run out. Okay. Pump the brakes for a minute, right? Let's say for argument's sake, the U.S. runs out of toilet paper and you can't get it for like 2 months. Okay. Well, cool. So take up a bucket and put some bleach water in it and set it next to the toilet and get you a bag of rags for you can get like a 5 or 10 pound bag of rags at a hardware store for like $10.
Make your own rags. My mom's been I said, make your own rags. My mom's been taking our old shirts since as long as I can remember. Once the shirt's all fucked up and got holes in it, she just rip it apart and be like, it's a bleach rag now.
Yeah. And so, you wipe with that, right? And you throw it in your bucket with your bleach water in it and stuff, and you get several of them in there, you throw it in the wash and wash it.
Yeah.
It's a simple thing. It's like what my mom used to do when I was an infant. She didn't buy disposable diapers. They were too expensive. So she bought cloth diapers. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what she did. She threw them in a bucket with bleach next to the changing table. When it filled up, she threw them in the washing machine and washed it, and it's fine. We reuse them, because those things disposable diapers are very expensive.
Yeah.
And kids outgrow them quickly, But, a cloth diaper, you can wash it and use it. And it's fine for sanitary reasons. Yeah. So I'm like, what's the big deal? I mean, there's alternatives to everything. What if the water gets shut off? Well, cool. Do you have a hot water heater? Because if you do, you got 40 to 50 gallons of drinkable water right there in your house. Mm-hmm. That's going to get you through a couple of weeks, with drinkable water. Learn how to filter water and how to boil it, make it clean and consumable. It's simple things. It's like, what did people do years ago when they didn't have water filters? Boil water, make it clean. Yeah. Okay, simple concept, Yeah. When I was in training down in Florida for a deployment with the civil engineering unit, we spent an entire week in the field. We drink water from the ocean. We showered in water that came from the ocean. They have what they call a ROPU, reverse osmosis processing unit, right? It's big and do tens of thousands of gallons of water a day. They sunk wellheads in the beach at low tide, and it was able to suck in ocean water even through the sand, filter it down to like 0.00001 microns, so it's almost pure water. In fact, it was so pure, we had the MREs, just to get enough minerals and stuff in our bodies. Yeah. The water would leach it out of you at some point, what I mean? But, here it is. We don't need clean water source in the military. We just need a water source. Yeah. And we can clean it and use it and press on. I think people need to learn to be a little more resilient and self-reliant on things like this. Okay, yeah, go buy a bottle of water. Cool. What are you going to do with it? You store it in your closet. You're going to drink it. You know what I mean? These preppers that hoard food, they go out and buy rice and pack it in buckets, Mylar bags, and they inject nitrogen in there and stuff, and then they seal the buckets, put it in a cool place out of the sun so they can store it for 30 years. If you don't eat rice as a part of your normal diet, are you going to want to eat rice when there's a food shortage? You can do it to sustain yourself, but at the same time, your morale is going to take a dump. Yeah. Because when things get bad, one of the best morale boosts we have is comfort food, food that we normally like to eat. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So my recommendation has always been, okay, cool, have a month's supply of food on hand for an emergency, right? At least a month. Because within 30 days, things should start coming back up online, unless we're like in a nuclear winter or some shit, then we're all screwed, right? Yeah. But, when you go to the grocery store, just over the course of a month, keep track of what you buy and what you eat. And then the next month, let's say you go through 2 cans of refried beans a month because there's 2 nights a month where, you're making burritos or whatever, right? Cool. So next month, go buy 3 cans and keep that extra can. And then the next month you buy 3 cans again. So now you've got 2 on hand, 2 extras. Well, that's going to last you a month because you can only go through 2 cans of beans a month, right? If you do that with all your stuff that's non-perishable or what have you, you're going to have a month's supply of food on hand, and you're not going to be, hoarding food for 10, 20 years. And you just keep replenishing your stock so that if something happens, you can't get to the store or whatever, at least you got food to last you a month. If you ration it at that point, cool, you can extend it out, but you're still eating food that you're used to eating. So these guys that go out and buy like 10 cases of lima beans because it's on sale and they need to pack it in their cellar, for a rainy day. And the rainy day comes, they've never eaten lima beans in their life, and all of a sudden they eat it, and they're like, what the hell am I eating? This sucks. Like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
So it's the same with like toilet paper. Like, why are you rushing out and like buying stocks and stocks of toilet paper? Dude, there's alternatives. If we run out, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
You can still wipe.
Yeah. Do you have a shower that works? Just fucking take a shower. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I've always thought about that. A certain extent of prepping I get. It's like definitely just little shit. Power outage, Look at Hurricane Katrina, shit can happen. And but I always look at the people that spend like the vast majority of their income and limit other aspects of their life just to prep.
Mm-hmm.
To me, hey man, I get it. Hey, if that's your cup of tea, that's your cup of tea. I get it. From my opinion, I look at it as, so if you're spending all your disposable income on that stuff, that means you're not spending it on going to the football game, going to the bars, getting a new video game,
enjoying life,
smoking some pot, hanging out with your buddies, being shitheads, right? You're trading that for living in a post-collapse society where it's you're alive for the sake of being alive. So you're trading the here and now, where you can go downtown wherever you live, New York, go get fucked up, go to a show, go to the bars, whatever, go to the strip club, act like jackasses, whatever. You're trading that in the here and now for the potential to be able to live in a collapsed society where neighbors have turned on each other and there are feral dogs ripping apart the kids. I guess that's just me, and I think it would also be a lot different if I had kids. You look at it as like, I gotta protect this family unit. For me, it's very different because I just look at it as like, fuck it, I don't, if shit goes down, I don't want to be here, man. I'm like, fuck that, you guys can eat me.
But, and see me, I'm of the mindset where like, no, I'm gonna push through and try and persevere through whatever the world throws at me until it takes me out.
Oh, I get that mindset too, where it's just like, we're dying anyway, so it's like fight to fight, fight for this. It's like the quote, "Those who see the night and to see the night and not act is cowardice." It's like you're going down no matter. It's like the zombie hordes are coming. It's like, dude, go out in a blaze of glory. You're dying no matter. And even if you survive the zombie hordes, you're still gonna die of old age one day. So it's like you're either dying today on Iwo Jima or you're dying in 80 years from emphysema. It's like, dude, go down for the sake of glory, just for no other reason. And I get that too.
If I'm sitting on my porch when I'm 80, right, and I catch pneumonia and that takes me out, okay. But at the same time, I go, hey man, send everything you've got. I don't care. Let's do this. Go fuck yeah. Go. Yeah.
I mean, that's literally. I think that's in the Bhagavad Gita, the ancient Indian text, where it's literally like the warrior goes sulking into the woods and he drops his shield and his sword and he's like, I don't want to fight. And I guess one of the gods comes up. And it's like, you're going to die regardless. Maybe it's today on the battlefield. Maybe it's tomorrow on the battlefield. Maybe it's in 60 years. But I think the quote is rise to the fight. That's what you're here for. It's nothing else than to rise to the fight. And it's like, dude, you may be boxing against Mike Tyson. He may dislocate your jaw. Fucking rise to the fight, for the sake of it. Just for the, it's,
we get lunch, in my opinion. And there's people out there in different religions that would disagree with me, but I think we get one shot at this life.
We're here now.
Fight. And so make the most of it. Have fun with it. I think you got to be sensible about some things. When I was younger, I didn't lend any credence to respecting things that could harm me. I had no fears.
Yeah, invincibility. I think we all had that. Even now, at 29, I look back and go, Jesus, how did I not die?
I can name off multiple occasions where I should have been taking a dirt nap, but I'm still here, right? But the thing is, it's like, okay, so I'm going to prepare for that. I'm going to be sensible about it, and I'm going to respect things that can hurt me now because I have healthy respect for those things that I didn't have when I was younger. But at the same time, it makes sense to prepare to an extent. What's reasonable, I'm still going to enjoy my life right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the things I enjoy doing. I'm not going to let, fear of terrorists. I'm not going to let fear of a plague, stop me from doing those things. In fact, my wife and I were talking last night. It's like, hey, we might take a cruise for my birthday at the end of the month.
Fuck yeah.
Let's fly down to Florida. Let's get on a cruise ship and go. Because guess what? We're thinking about going to Canada for 2 nights. Fly up to Washington and take a little boat up to Canada and spend a couple days up there, a couple nights up there, whatever, and come home. And then we priced out a cruise, and it was like 10 times more to go to Canada than it is to go on a cruise right now.
Yeah.
I can go on a 10-day cruise, right?
You want it for dollars right now.
With airfare from here to Florida, California to Florida and back, and 10 nights on a boat for my wife and I, and it will cost us under $800 total.
That's insane.
Yeah, and that's with airfare. Right? You can't eat out for 10 days in a row, 3 meals a day, for $800. You can't do it. I mean, if you can do it somewhere other than California, you can't do it in California.
You can't do it anywhere fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at a minimum $100 a day, minimum to eat 3 meals a day, probably more than that in California. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I've never been to Jamaica. There's some of the islands down there I've never been to. So we're thinking about going.
Yeah.
Now, I am going to take a couple of N95 masks with me, some hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But live your life.
But I'm still going to wake up in the morning on the boat, and I'm going to go get me a Guinness, and I'm going to take a swig. I'm going to walk over to soft serve ice cream, put some vanilla ice cream in it, and have my beer float for the morning, and just live it.
Yeah, and just go sit up and be like, you know what, man, if this is if I go from coronavirus, then I go from coronavirus, It is what it is. I get that, and I think as you're saying, I'm having a little more respect for that idea. It's like, prepare within reason. Don't throw away now for, I'm living in a hermetically sealed bunker in an undisclosed location, post 9/11 Dick Cheney. Like, no, it's, plug Raven Rock, Bulgaria, and McGrath. It's all about prepping. It's about the government prepping. It's about, they don't have any worries. They got centuries of food. But but at the same time, it's like, don't throw away at all. Like, if that means you got to go live in the mountains, if all your friends and family are in the city, dude, go back to the city. And if you go down, you go down. Like, it's because the argument I always use is like, if there was no such thing as like natural death, I could definitely see the argument for like non-stop prepping, like lock the doors, have the gun. Because if you could, live for millennia, that could be cool.
Yeah.
But the way I look at it is like, none of us, you're a billionaire, you live to 95, or you die as a rice farmer at 10. It all ends. Yeah. It all fucking ends. You can be the president, you can win the Super Bowl, or you can be Tommy and start a podcast. We're all going back to the dirt. Like, there is no winning. There's no winning. I get it.
But I think it makes sense to be prepared for things, because you don't want to be caught unprepared, and have to rely on, those around you to support you. I think it's a responsibility we each have as human beings, to make some kind of preparations to take care of ourselves to an extent, right? But not to go overboard on things. I mean, dude, I envy people, that have like these homesteads, right? Like my brother, he's preparing a homestead in Tennessee. They're growing their own food. They have chickens and ducks and stuff. They're getting ready to get some pigs and whatnot out there. So, they're going to have swine flu and avian flu. That's going to happen. They have birds and pigs, so whatever. But
but
the thing is, it's like the more they produce, one, it's economical for them, right? It costs less to eat for him and his family, right? But also, if you can't go to the grocery store, okay, they walk out to their garden. They pick vegetables. They take eggs and stuff, or kill a chicken or whatever, and they got food. He's got a well on his property with a hand pump. So if power goes out, they can tap into the well and pump water out of there and drink it and use it for sanitation and everything else. Cooking, you name it. So I mean, they're in a spot right now where they're more resilient, I think, in that respect than I am at the moment. but I'm also in a state of transition in my life too, where I'm trying to get the heck out of California and move, so I can establish the same types of things. But even here, right? People are like, vitamins. People are buying vitamins off the shelf because somebody put a news report out saying, hey, make sure that you take your vitamin C in this increments and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't have to worry about vitamin C because I got 6 citrus trees in my backyard. I got orange tree and lime tree and 4 lemon trees and stuff, you know what I mean? And they produce all year long here in California. It's like, I got plenty of vitamin C. I don't have to buy it. I don't have to, you know what I mean? So I'm saving my money there. But scurvy's not going to be an issue for me. You know what I mean?
That's not what's taking me down. No, I definitely.
So it's things like that.
I definitely get it to to that degree. I guess again, like I said earlier, I always look at it as like not, not only am I like not prepared to survive in like a post-collapse society, like I don't want to. It's what would Nikita Khrushchev say? In a nuclear winter, the living will envy the dead. Like you don't want to be like, again, because we all go eventually. Do you want to go in a blinding flash where it literally burns your nerve endings before you can feel it, or do you want to watch like your family and friends turn on each other over the course of decades? Do you want to eat rats and watch your wife die from like malnutrition? Like, I don't know, but it's.
I've seen societies that are.
You can speak on the subject. I can't.
You know what I mean? I've seen landscapes that looked post-apocalyptic all over the Middle East. You know what I mean? Syria was the first nation a few years back to request withdraw from the world seed deposit, the heirloom seeds from the seed vault.
Svalbard?
Can't remember what country it's in.
Svalbard. It's in Sweden or Norway.
Somewhere it's freaking freezing cold all the time.
Svalbard. It's cool. It's in an area where the permafrost will naturally cool it. So even in the event that humans are wiped out, it will be naturally preserved.
And so Syria was the first country to request a withdrawal, and whether they took one or not, I'm not sure. But I mean, that country 2-3 years ago was in so much turmoil, so much disruption, so much fighting, so much carnage, so much, a huge loss of infrastructure and everything else, right, for a lot of people, that they're like, hey, we need to feed our people and we can't get seeds in here to grow anything. So can we get some seeds out of the, vault? So I've seen like those wastelands, but I've also seen people survive through that stuff, during some really hard times. You go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, what's the first thing you need? Food, water, shelter, security, right? And so people do kind of become barbaric. They do fight over those resources and stuff. Or they just simply figure out a way to go to a bartering system. Hey, I'm producing this. You need it. You have something I need. Let's trade and let's get on with life. Eventually some form of stability, or maybe not stability, but normalization does take place in those environments.
Relative stability.
And people begin to prosper again. Unless, you're looking at places like, was it Haiti that butts up to the Dominican Republic, where the French came in and deforested the whole place, and now all the topsoil is eroded, you can't grow anything, and the people there were starving, they were eating like patties made out of clay and rice, you know what I mean, just so their bellies would feel full.
Jesus.
That kind of thing. It's like, okay, we got a problem, we need to do something about it. It's human beings, it doesn't matter what country you're from. Like, hey, if you got the ability to help, go help them. You know what I mean?
Go help. Yeah,
go. I think the French actually, should be the ones helping them because they're the ones that, raped all the landscape of all the topsoil and trees and everything. But whatever.
Yeah.
Man, they needed the wood. I don't know why, but whatever. But it's one of those things that I go. I've seen people survive through those types of events. So, barring a nuclear winter or a cosmic event, where, say, we get a solar flare so big it melts the earth, or, we get hit with a giant freaking, meteor or something like that. Okay. Can we live through stuff? Yeah. Will it be tough? Oh, yeah. You look at the Dark Ages when the bubonic plague was circling Europe and stuff, people died all over the place. Very contagious, whatever. I mean, these people were dying everywhere. But communities that you saw, survive through that and make their way through it tended to be isolated as a community, right? So villages that had a small population in them, separated from big cities by distance and time and everything else, where people just didn't travel to, they tended to survive or have fewer cases of things like the bubonic plague and stuff. And I think we'll see if the coronavirus becomes this monster that the media is portraying it to be, right?
Yeah, I don't think it is, man.
I think I read a report yesterday, 2 days ago. Again, I haven't validated any sources, so I'm just speaking on what I read, not what I've investigated, right? Yeah. But it drew a comparison between how many people have died, from the coronavirus versus how many people have died from the flu this season. And it's like, okay, the numbers were way out of balance.
Orders of magnitude.
Yeah. We're talking like over 50,000 people died from flu-related illnesses, this season or some damn thing like that.
Yeah.
Again, according to this report I read. And not that many from the coronavirus,
The thing is like, the way I look at it is like, I think if the coronavirus was truly what it's being made out to be, I don't think we would have waited and, well, let's hope the Chinese respect a quarantine or something. If it was truly like people were coughing on each other and dropping dead that day at like a 99% infection rate, the big dick of Uncle Sam would have been like, nothing's coming in, nothing's coming out. And not only that, every politician you saw speaking would be speaking from a fluorescent lit room because they're a fucking mile underground. Like, if it's truly this killer, and not only that, is you wouldn't be seeing like, oh, this many people are infected. You would be seeing just streams of bodies, like, drone feeds of, hey, before they cut out the cameras, like, it's just, I think there's got to be like reasoning behind it. I really do. Yeah. I think it's, is it a form of economic warfare? Is it a form of imposing tariffs? Is it, because we had talked about that on, I believe, the second podcast that we did about using it as a form of warfare against China. What better way to impose tariffs and wage a tariff war than to be like, hey, look, China's, infected with this. No one buy anything. That works.
Yes, stop all movement to and from that country.
Exactly. And what you brought up,
the country goes into a mass quarantine, right? Yeah. And then we see a reduction of pollution.
Yeah.
A visible reduction of pollution over the course of a week.
Maybe that's AI saving humanity. It's like, gotta shut down the chimney. What's the big chimney? India and China. And it's just like, take them out. Maybe. But you brought up a good point the first time, and you're like, I just don't see that as a viable weapon because no one wins with the biological weapons except for the fucking handful of elite in Raven Rock and NORAD and Mount Weather. Everyone's gone. You release this thing, it's like the analogy: nuclear warfare is two guys standing knee high in a puddle of gas, both with flamethrowers aiming them at each other. No one's winning, man. But there is an idea of what would be a way to win, and it would be to create coronavirus, COVID-19, and hype it up, knowing full well that this bioweapon, it's just the flu. But, the overall effect is the same. Massive drop in importing and exporting from China. It's, but did it work? I don't know, because it seems like, didn't a couple $1 trillion leave the market in the last week?
Yeah.
Like a couple trillion with a T. But it isn't bouncing back. So, was this, again, if I can think of it, someone smarter than me can think of it, was that predicted? Hey, Mr. President, here's option B. This is, we call coronavirus. This will happen. We'll see a drop in the market. It will bounce back. But overall, the effect will, it's like dropping nuclear weapons. Like, okay, at first we'll be denounced, and we foresee that, we expect that. And around 7 weeks is when everyone will stop giving a shit. But in 7 weeks, our enemy will still be dead. It's, I don't know. Is it, or is it really just?
See, so going down that line of thought, I have a tendency to not put much stock in that kind of stuff, and I'll tell you why. Right? Conspiracies like that require a lot of coordination.
Yeah,
right. A lot of coordination and a lot of people to keep that secret. Right.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do. It's hard for 3 people to keep a conspiracy quiet. Yeah. I had several years ago, I had a young security forces member who had gotten himself into trouble, with drug use and stuff within the unit, and was facing a court-martial. And he made an allegation that one night he claimed that when he was working the front gate, that our squadron commander, basically the sheriff on base, the chief of police on base, right, drove through there drunk. And then he stopped him and called his flight chief. His flight chief came out, sent the airman on his way, and basically brushed all this stuff under the rug with the commander. Right? So he told the base commander, the ranking guy on the yard, hey, our squadron commander came through with a DUI and it was covered up by our flight chief and all this stuff. Right? Well, that launched an investigation, and it absorbed a ton of resources, unwarranted, and it all came out to be crap. I'm like, it proved that it never happened, because the people involved, if that were to happen, we're talking about the commander, the airman, the other airman that was at the front gate as the wingman, because they always work in pairs up there, right? So there's 3, the flight chief, which is 4. You've got the emergency control center people, which is 3 people there. So we're talking about 7 people would all have to agree to not say the commander came through the gate drunk driving in order for them to sweep it under the rug. Well, this airman didn't obviously think any of that stuff through. He just threw out these crazy allegations, and we added that onto his court-martial, for attacking the commander that way. Yeah. So on top of the drug use, he had to stand charges for that other stuff too. So that's just a little localized conspiracy theory, right? That the commander came through with a DUI. If we're talking about a government sponsoring a bioweapon for the purposes of economic sanctions, for the purposes of reducing somebody's financial position on the global stage, right, like China, we're talking about a huge conspiracy, because it would take a lot of moving parts, and I don't think there's enough people that would ever keep their mouth shut about it, especially once it hit U.S. soil. You know what I mean? Yeah. You want to talk about people blowing the whistle on things, like we're spying on cell phones and crap. Thank you, Edward Snowden. Yeah. To compare that to the coronavirus, right? If it was a biological weapon, as soon as it left the borders of China, I think somebody would be blowing the whistle from, every freaking corridor on every office on the Beltway. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I tend to stay away from that. But at the same time, I do think that the information or disinformation campaign is in full swing right now surrounding the coronavirus. Whether it's intentional or unintentional. And by that I mean, on China's part, they're intentionally putting out fake news about the coronavirus, how bad it is, where it started, what's going on in the U.S. as opposed to in China and all that stuff, to try and sway their people and keep them calm and everything like that. Our own media has perpetuated fear of the coronavirus by constantly pushing it in front of people, right? Maybe not always checking their data, or not giving it some solid analysis and comparing it to, other diseases that we currently have that we're dealing with, like the normal flu, like whatever. Okay. And so it's created this fear, which is driving down markets, right? You look at all the stock markets all dropped like 2,000 points yesterday. Oil prices are dropping, because of the stuff going on in Iran over fears of the coronavirus, right? So oil prices are coming way down now. I'm waiting to see that show up at the gas station, to be honest with you. I want to see gas in California go under $3 a gallon. That's what I want to see. Yeah. That'd be great if we could get there.
Thank you, COVID-19.
Yeah, but we're seeing a run on things like personal protective stuff. Not so much Tyvek suits and goggles yet, maybe, but definitely N95 masks, hand sanitizers, toilet paper, bottled water, all these kinds of things, right? So those stuff's flying off the shelf. People are preparing to be put on lockdown. And I'm like, go ahead, try and lock down this country.
Yeah.
Try and quarantine everybody in the country. How are you going to do that? You know what I mean? We don't have a dictatorship. You know, we have freedom of movement and free will in this country, and we have freedom, right? Yeah. So how are you going to institute? You'd have to declare martial law, call up all the guard and reserve, call up the military, and now you do that, and we don't have the ability to sustain combat on any other front, right?
Yeah, all the resources are drawn home.
Yeah. So again, knowing what kind of not only economic impact releasing a bioweapon like that would have, but then from our strategic military advantage, you know, that we would lose or get damaged as a result of that by having to quarantine everybody in this country. I find it hard to believe that the government would sponsor something like that. But is the media perpetuating fear? Absolutely. Yeah. You know, is there a lot of bogus stories out there about what's happening with it? Yeah, absolutely. It's like, how the hell does anybody right now really have a truthful story on it? Who do you trust? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a question I can't answer, brother.
Yeah. I guess my only devil's advocate argument is I always think of the nuclear bomb. And not only was it kept secret, there's something like 150,000 people worked on it, and less than 500 knew they were working on it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean 150,000 people were working on something and they're not sure what. They didn't even know they were working on something classified. They thought they were just, you know, we'd generate the electricity in Tennessee, and we'd run the test here, and we'd have this being enriched here, and we'd be importing that there. But that's just the one example I always look at is like, when we really wanted no one to know, people only found out once we detonated a second sun over a city.
Well, that's when the public.
That's when the public knew. The KGB had agents there, right? Yeah.
But the Russians were aware of it long before that because we had people on the Manhattan Project that were backdooring the intel to them.
Yeah, Lavrenti Beryov was the head of the KGB, and he had Klaus Fuchs. That was his double agent in the Manhattan Project. When Truman told Stalin in confidence that we had a quote weapon that would make a terrific explosion, Stalin smiled and said, "I hope you put it to good use against the Chinese." But Stalin already knew about it.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know.
So, you know, I think that stuff will get out somehow. You know.
Yeah. So what I think is more real. Look at it then is, do you think that it wasn't a bioweapon so much as it's, you know, Hunter S. Thompson, keep fear in front of you? Do you think it's a very quick reaction by some quick thinking, intelligent individuals who are like, here's the thing, here's how we make it work for us? Where it's like, you don't need why expend all the energy walking when you can get something that floats and ride the river next to you? Maybe don't even create the coronavirus. Maybe here's this novel thing coming up. Hey, I think we can do something with this. Because that is the ultimate deniability. You know, above, you know, we have Delta Force and Dev Group, but above that is the Special Activities Division. That's because they go in and they train the locals to do stuff. It's truly, there's no American footprint. It's a bunch of locals going, what the fuck? How do they, you know, that's the true plausible deniability. You don't have a white guy over there. You know, it just seems like, damn, they rose up and they used local weapons. Like, that's the true deniable hand. So why worry about, you're right, why worry about secrecy? Why worry about who can keep the lid on it when you could just go through, you know, satellite feeds, through whatever cyber intelligence, SIGINT. You just go ELINT, you just go, here's this thing, it's happening at this lab. It's kind of dangerous. Here's this thing, we could blow it up as X, Y, and Z. Don't have to fire a shot, don't have to create the virus. Here's this thing. What is dangerous is we could make a media campaign on this fucker. I think that's completely plausible.
So any time there's problems in the world, right? Countries of all kinds are going to jump on that and try to exploit it.
Yeah, don't let it go to waste. Don't let a tragedy go to waste.
I mean, you look at famines in Africa, right? food shortages because, country X is in a 5-year drought and their crops are going to fail, next year, and their people are going to be starving. Cool. Well, maybe we need a base of operations in that country to conduct a war on terror out of, because it gives us a strategic, vantage point for launching missions. So, knowing that this country is going to come up and have food shortages and stuff, we use it as a bargaining chip on the political stage. Hey, we're going to give you this food aid. We need you to let us use this facility as a base of operations. Okay, cool, because we're hungry and we need the food and you need a spot, so we're good, right? That's taking advantage of a bad situation, right? That kind of stuff probably happens all the time, all over the world. You know what I mean? When the coronavirus broke out, the U.S. offered to send medical assistance to help figure out, what's the best course of action to move forward on. How do we get a handle on this thing as a whole? And the Chinese were like, no, stay out of here, right? Yeah. And they started building these hospitals, these clinics in like a couple of days, right? Erecting all these hospitals. But one of them burnt down last week. Right?
Crematorium.
Well, so there was reports that I heard, coming out of China through, again, there's a lot of censorship going there, right? So it's hard to tell, what's truthful, what's not. But, I got friends that teach English. I think I mentioned this before, to Chinese students via the internet, right? And so some of those folks were reporting that, hey, these are crematoriums, not hospitals, right? Now, if that's true, that doesn't surprise me that one of them burnt down then, you know what I mean? Like, are they just cremating people there or what? To get rid of dead bodies? Who knows? Whatever. Who knows what's going on there? Somebody knows, and I'm sure people in our government know. I think they're monitoring very closely. I think because China opened up their borders to the World Health Organization to come in support, it's given the world a greater insight to really how bad the virus is, whether they're telling us the truth or not, But it's one of those things where, it's a devastating situation. If I was the decision maker if I was king of the day, right, king of the now, I would try and figure out a way to leverage that for the benefit of my country and then humanity as a whole.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's never a good thing, I think, to prey upon somebody's misfortune. But at the same time, when we're talking about a capitalist country like ours, how can we help them and use it to leverage our strategic advantage in our engagements with them and their allies?
Yeah, I think it's...
Why not?
Yeah, the cold truth is, I think the warm and fuzzies disappear when you get to the geopolitical stage. I think it's a zero-sum game. You know? It's, 2 billion people in the world don't have clean water and live on under $1 a day? It's brutal, but...
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but it's up there.
It's like, it's brutal, but if it's not them, it's you.
Yeah.
If it's not going to be them, it's going to be you, or it's going to be you and it's not going to be them. It's... Yeah. And that being said, why would you not leverage it? Why would you not? If we're willing to have nuclear weapons to me, anything south of, anything below, in terms of severity, of a multi-megaton thermonuclear warhead coming in at Mach 23 from orbit, I think anything less insane than that is fair game. Not even fair game so much as plausible, Yeah. If that is a legitimate thing, we have submarines going around quieter than a whisper with 24 Trident or whatever ones they have now, SLBMs, each one with 10 independent re-entry vehicles, each one of those 100 times stronger than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. And we publicly flaunt that. Anything less insane than that, anything less than delivering a mini sun that will, through radiation, cause that area to be deniable land for the next 50 millennia. When you really think about it, it's like anything less insane than that, Well, it has to be fair game because we're willing to do that. If I'm willing to put a bullet in your head, I'm also liable to pull a knife on you, right? Mm-hmm. So it's, so I'll let you go at 7:50. So we got 15 more minutes. This is kind of, are you cool with that? Or 14?
Yeah.
14. So this is kind of out of left field, not really to do with coronavirus. Have you ever been in a SCIF?
Yeah.
So, what are those like? Is it? I don't know if that's something you can talk about. Like I know, like you go in there. There's no electronics. That's just something I wrote down. Just a thought popped into my head.
It's like a black hole. I mean, a lot of work is done in secure information facilities. A SCIF, right? All of our classified work that we do in the government and the military and everything else, it's conducted in a SCIF. It's just really, multi-layered physical electronic security that prevents prying eyes from digging into what we're keeping secret. It covers access is done well in advance, clearing you for access and stuff. As far as background investigations, the award of a security clearance, whether it's secret, top secret, whether you have access to program information, they process SAR material in there, special access programs, special access required. But it's literally a facility where you work in that, you take no electronics, you take nothing in, nothing comes out. You go to work, you're in a vault. It's like, imagine a giant gun safe the size of a 2 or 3 story building, right? That every room you go into is like a gun safe, to include the hallways, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a place where people go and work. Instead of having cubicle farms, that you can stand up and look over and look out the window. There's no windows on these places, so.
Yeah.
I can't go into the design of a SCIF and what types of security features exactly are there, but I can tell you there is a standard for creating SCIFs. Some of the stuff you can find on open source, of how they're constructed and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's really just to keep secret.
Yeah. So one thing I've always wondered is, for just the most secrets, are they confined to just like pen on it's the NSA getting me. Are they confined to just pen on paper? Because I feel like if I truly had something that I did not want hacked, not only would it be in a SCIF, it'd be written down in a notebook with a fucking pen, not on something that can be hacked.
Well, the problem with notebooks is they can walk away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you put it on a piece of paper, you can tuck it in under the sole of your shoe and walk out the door with it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to go with a hard no on that.
God damn it, Dan. Yeah, I mean, I figured if I had like embedded agents, if I had some Dale Comstock motherfucker in Beijing, and I mean, deep undercover, had risen to like power, we couldn't beat Dale because Dale looks about as American as you get, Dale.
I love the Manchu mustache he's got going on. The handlebar mustache thing's awesome.
Yeah, it's fucking amazing. Yeah, no, Dale would not get away, in North Korea as a diplomat, he's just running for office, Dale, he'd be 3 feet taller than everyone else just from malnutrition. But you'd want, you'd want a local.
Yeah.
I always figured maybe it's just mixed for a sexier story, but in like a truly limited, like this cannot get out. Like, Kim's right hand man is an American asset. I wouldn't want that I wouldn't want that in digital form anywhere, because it'd be something
If it was in digital form, it would most likely be under some code name. No personal identifying information associated with that individual, that kind of stuff. That's just another level of security, right? So, I mean, we have code names for all of our operations, our combat operations and stuff, right? We have call signs for our pilots. Why? Because we know that the radio chatter can get intercepted by our adversaries, our enemies and stuff. And we don't want them saying, hey, Spooky One is actually John Smith, who lives at this address, and that's where his family's at, and he's deployed to the Middle East. And so let's go kidnap or kill his family or do something like that as a way of getting to him, because now we know exactly who he is, right? So I would imagine that if we had assets like that, we probably do around the world, all of them would be masked under some kind of code name anyways, regardless of how that medium or that information is stored.
Okay.
So I don't ever see that happening. Even when I was running interrogations over in Iraq, we didn't ever use the name of the detainees on any of our reports. They were all assigned a number, right? So they'd have a source number. That source, that person is assigned a number, and any reports that we generate based off the intel we get from them gets associated with that number rather than a name. So,
damn it.
Yeah.
I got 9 minutes left with you.
No, you're good, man.
We've had a 3.5 hour good normal conversation. 8 minutes. I got 8 minutes left with you.
And we've hit a lot of different topics too.
So I got 8 minutes. I want you to humor my bullshit.
Okay.
Are UFOs real?
So I personally, and I can say this hand on heart, right, in all sincerity, I have no personal intimate knowledge of actual UFOs. Now, I can tell you what I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And disclaimer: disclaimer. You're not representing the U.S. government. You're not.
Yeah.
I had a guy in from NASA yesterday that was like, disclaimer: I don't represent NASA. So
But so I've never worked on anything or around anything where I could go, dude, that looks like alien technology to me, right? I've seen some pretty advanced stuff over the years, but nothing I would go, that's alien. Now, I tend to think that we would be stupid if we believed we were the only intelligent life forms in the whole universe, right? Yeah. I firmly think that there are absolutely aliens out there. If they can transit the universe and come here to the third rock from our sun, they would see us and go, they can't even get past the moon. Yeah. They're overpopulated. They have no resources that we need. In fact, they'd probably make good pets. So we're going to leave them alone for right now, and just move on. Do I think maybe the planet has been visited from time to time by aliens, right? Aliens is like greens or grays, with big buggy eyes and all this stuff. I don't know. Probably.
Statistically, you would think. I mean, if you had that technology, I don't think it'd be any different from us flying drones over, isolated islands and being like, oh wow, look at that Komodo dragon down there.
I mean, I've even gotten into these discussions with people that are like really hardcore religious, who think that maybe the Bible only applies to God's creation. This is God's creation as man and this planet, and there's no other creation because the Bible doesn't talk about it. And so I always give them a competing hypothesis, right? I'm like, okay, let's say for a minute that, for argument's sake, that when God created man on this earth, that he created an intelligent being in his image on another planet on the other side of the solar system, right? And he gave us all instructions. This is how you live your life. Golden rule. Do unto others as you have them do unto you, blah, 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 whatever, 10 commandments, you name it, whatever, right? But he says, hey, do these things and you're cool, right? And then mankind here on this earth goes, no, we're not going to do it. And, the flood comes and wipes out everybody except for Noah and his family. And then they repopulate the earth or whatever, which makes us all connected, right? In that sense, we're all brothers and sisters now because it actually got Noah and his family, right? But let's say for argument's sake that was the case. But this other planet out there somewhere else was obedient.
Okay.
How much further advanced would they be, technology-wise?
No flood. Oh, okay.
Okay. I mean, you take entire mankind by biblical principles and say, okay, they were wiped out by a flood except for these 6 people, right? Noah and his wife and their 2 kids and their wives, right? And that's it. So we had to repopulate the entire earth from these 6 people. We'd all have probably webbed feet and stuff and gills by now from all of that, and gene delusion or whatever, right?
But bottlenecking, yeah.
But let's say the others didn't. Could you imagine? I mean, we're just stepping into AI right now. Maybe they figured out some kind of quantum physics that allows them to create wormholes in time and space to be able to show up on our doorstep at any given point in time and go, hey, what's up? We're not ready to make you our pets yet, but you're getting close.
Yeah. So instantaneous travel. Yeah.
I mean, when you think about the universe as a whole, it's hard to comprehend how big it really is.
It can't be done. Right? Nothing we can say can do it justice.
So I was 5 years old. I'll remember this as clear as it was this morning. I was visiting my grandfather, who was a brilliant, brilliant man, just a genius. He goes, hey, Danny boy, what'd you learn in school today? I said, well, Pappy, I said, I learned about the Big Bang Theory, He goes, yeah, tell me about that. I said, well, there was this explosion, this bang, and the universe started to expand, and planets formed, and, gases condensed and created, probably didn't use that term a lot, but there was a bang, and now the universe is expanding, right? And so he goes, oh, like when you blow up a balloon. And he actually had a balloon, next to his chair. I'm sitting on this arm of this ugly green leather chair. I had arms like this wide on. I just sat to him all the time. He called it my perch.
Yeah.
So he reaches down in his little cabinet and he pulls out a balloon and he starts blowing up. He goes, yeah, like a balloon. Blowing this balloon up. And he goes, I go, yeah, it's expanding like that balloon. He goes, yeah, but you know what's interesting? This balloon has an edge, right? And as it inflates, it's taking up space in the room. So if the universe is expanding, where's its edge? And then what's on the other side of it?
Yeah, what's it expanding
into? And here I am,
into?
5-year-old Danny boy, man. It was like freaking mind blown, dude. I'm like, I'm 5 years old, man. I don't know. I can't even think like that. But that's the way his mind worked all the time.
Yeah.
And I think he is probably the number one influencer on my natural curiosity. I won't say natural. I think it was a learned thing. He gave me so many questions to ask of life and the world around us and just everything, It just created this curiosity in me. Like, I want to know more. I really do want to know, where's the edge?
Yeah.
And what's it taking up the space of?
That's what I always think of. It's I think it was Einstein that said the universe is expanding. What is it expanding into?
Yeah.
What is it expand? Or I think his quote was, once you accept that the universe is something, now once you accept that there was nothing and then there was something expanding into nothing, it's easier to wear stripes with polka dots. Other basic life, you go, oh, okay, nothing matters. It's easier to wear stripes with polka dots. Yeah.
I mean, I would like to know before my time here is done,
maybe you only know once the time is done.
There's absolutely aliens. And they're here to visit. Maybe they come to stay.
Yeah.
Think about that, though, man. I mean, so we're talking like what a lot of people consider science fiction. I mean, this is just fantasy, right? But if we, no joke, had aliens show up, announce themselves, bring crazy technology with them, and say, "Hey, we can give you this stuff," what would that do to the world? In forms of military and defense, in forms of alliances, in forms of religion, right? I mean, that would just totally turn everything upside down. There would be countries that would want to help them and become friends with them. There would be countries maybe that try to exploit them or take their technology. There might be countries that see them as an aggressive force, even though they may not be, and try and fight them, and in which case we're all smoked, because if they can get from wherever they're at to here, we're done.
Yeah,
we're ants, and they're like the magnifying glass.
Oh, yeah. One thing, I hate when you leave. I love talking to you.
No, you're good. Let's keep going.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So one thing I always think of is like, you have to think beyond. We think someone from the 1900s thought of like what's the future going to be. They could probably guess heavier early 1900s, before 1900, you could probably guess, or let's say after the Wright brothers, you could probably foresee the Airbus A380 on a long enough timeline. It could be like, yeah, they'll probably, but that's scaling up the same paradigm. When I think of like truly distant in the future aliens, it's not the same as like we have 4G, maybe they're at 10G. No, it's not even the same as, okay, they're coming across the ocean blue in 1492, try to imagine airplanes. No, it would literally be Ooga and Booga, who just discovered fire, and now you're trying to explain that over 4G internet we can live stream video of people getting infected by coronavirus. They don't know. They don't know what the fuck 4G is. Yeah. They don't have language. They don't. Yeah. They don't. And even if you could understand what Wi-Fi is, they don't understand what the fuck is a virus. Yeah. It's what? What do you mean there's something smaller than this? You can't get smaller than that because that's all I can see. It's so not even... It's beyond science fiction. It's to the point of, like, that is religion almost. That is God.
Oh, yeah.
So what I think is, like, with aliens, it'd be like, it's not even like, oh, their ships would be so advanced. Like, no, we're thinking linearly. If there are aliens, there is, I think, an equal probability... If they exist, there's an equal probability that they're in this room right now. Like, that is how advanced they could be. Non-detectable. Not in a form of... We're not even thinking maybe they're just on a different form of the electromagnetic spectrum. They could... How do you not know that they stepped off the spectrum? You know?
Right.
Time could be something as... Like, from the movie Arrival, it's like time could be something as abstract to them as, like... No, abstract to us, but to them it could be like going back in time could just be like walking up a hill. It's like not even in the same... You get what I'm saying? Like, so they could literally be here next to me and there next to you, and they're just observing us. Just like we observe, you know, uncontacted tribes on, you know, in the Amazon. Like that, wouldn't it be like, well, would we be able to detect their saucers coming in? Like, no, it's not, you know... That's like a caveman thinking, oh, I bet they have bigger fire and bigger wheels. And it's like, no, we're watching you from space. What do you mean space? Oh, up there. What do you mean? That's the ceiling. Like, okay. Like, okay, that's how far ahead. Where it'd be like trying to explain NRO satellites to cavemen. Like,
I think it would be exciting. I think it would turn everything upside down. I think it would... caused the greatest disruption in the history of mankind.
Yeah, there's a book called AD, After Disclosure. And it's a fictional book, obviously, but it's just about, they try to take a very serious look, and it's not about where did the aliens come from or this, that, or the other thing. They're like, let's just look at it as the president makes an announcement and says we have been contacted by at least one intelligent, non-Earth life forms. And it starts with what would first happen. Everyone in the press room would kind of look at each other. And then it's like the next thing would be like, it would spread like wildfire. They would close the markets because they'd be worried of panicking. But it starts with the 1 second, the 10 second, the 60, the hour, the day, the week, the month. And it goes on and on about how things would change. But yeah, they go from there forward. It would all talk about, it'd be like 9/11, where were you? But it would be AD. It would be after disclosure. And that's what, there'd be disclosure as in the word, and then there'd be disclosure capital D. Well, oh, disclosure, you know? And it'd be it'd be something like that, where it would become as big as BC and AD, but it would be a new AD. It'd be like, oh, you mean humanity up to that point? Because it would be an event horizon. It'd be stepping into a black hole. It'd be, you couldn't, you know, is there a point to geopolitical supremacy when there is now a God amongst you? You know?
Yeah.
Is there a point to, what does this do to religion? What does this do to philosophy? You know, what is this do to technology? It's not the new phone, it's the equivalent of, the wheel to the iPhone. It's a really neat book. It's just all about, you know, what would happen. And it literally starts with like the market's closing, and it just ripples into just like, where were you? Yeah, or like, you know, in 100 years from now, it'll be like, my grandma remembers disclosure, and it'd be like, oh, that's so cool. You know, you'd see like a cool documentary, just like you see now with like Holocaust survivors. You'd be like, oh yeah, no, I was at the office when we saw the announcement. You'd be like, well, what was it like? You know, and that's what it would be. It would be.
Yeah, think about it. Right now, we have a biological agent from China called the coronavirus that's on vacation in the U.S. right now, making its way across country in the U.S. on vacation, right?
Yeah.
And people are hoarding toilet paper. Now, we're talking about a microscopic organism right?
That hasn't even been
that is threatening us so much. Yeah. It's so scary, this thing, that people are literally hoarding toilet paper, right? Could you imagine a 3 foot, 6 foot, 9 foot, however tall, intelligent being, maybe humanoid in structure, maybe not, right, shows up with a city-sized ship over the White House, like Independence Day, right? He's like, and we're like, we're here. Dude.
What would happen? I think people would just start blowing their brains out, dude. Like,
toilet paper would not be the concern anymore.
Literally, barricade the doors. Because there'd be people just like, it's over. Like, would people just sit there in awe? Like, you're right. It is. I don't think there is I don't think there's anything. It would just. I don't think we could even hypothesize. I think we'll know when it happens.
Yeah,
it's because you can't.
I think it'd be cool to see in my lifetime. I really do.
So do I. I think it would be. I mean, the discovery of fire. Maybe learning how to create things that float. Writing. The printing press. Domesticated food and agriculture. Flight.
Aeronautics. Yep.
Internet.
Satellites, space travel.
Yeah.
You know,
what else is up? It would be it would trump all of those, wouldn't it? It would be who would fucking, if we ever have a chance of finding out, it's through Trump. Who else would want their name associated with the biggest event ever? Exactly. We'll know on his last day of office. Well, Area 51, weird little guys out there. Like, something like that.
Yeah, little green dudes.
We little green
dudes. What's funny is, like, okay, they show up. Mass panic, no panic, who knows, right? But what's the first thing you would do if they showed up at your door? To me, I got a feeling if they didn't look humans, they didn't look like humans, and they were some kind of like intelligent speaking prawn, like we see in District 9 in that film, something like that. My first instinct is probably kill it.
Yeah.
Don't let it in the front door. And he's just like, look, dude, I'm an intergalactic traveler. I need some gas. Can you help me out? Or I need some sugar, I'm making coffee down the street. Can you give me some sugar? I'm like, I'll give you sugar. Lead first,
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know how I'd react.
But if
I don't know if I'd be in shock. I don't know if I'd be in amazement.
It's probably got a force field around it. It can... You know what I think it would be? I think if they ever did come, they would send out some equivalent of an EMP, but it would be like virtual Valium, and I think we would all be like sedated. It'd be like, oh, the aliens are here, and it would be like, don't freak out, we're here, and we'd be like, cool. Like, that's the only way you could do it. It'd be like, you gotta calm the herd down, because it's like and it would slowly over like years take its foot off like the cyber Valium and be like, you're cool. Welcome to the intergalactic neighborhood. You're one of us now. We'd be like, okay. Because it's like, in the past we've learned that when you show up, all the nukes start flying, and it's like, fuck. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it would be exciting times. It would be exciting. I'd love to see it. Yeah. I'd love to know, put my eyes on it and stuff and know for sure, But I tend to believe that there is other life forms out there. I mean, you look at, I think we talked about this before, scientists have found a signal, a repeating radio signal. Yeah. And it's on a schedule.
It's on a routine,
it's on a cycle. It's broadcasting the same frequency, the same intensity, the same duration at very specific intervals, but it's coming from long ways out, right? Like, we're talking light years away. And I go back to the saying, dude, what are we waiting for? Replicate that signal, send it back. Let them know, hey, hello back to you.
Marco, Polo, Yeah.
I mean, we might be, civilization might not even exist on this planet by the time they receive the signal. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or maybe we still are, and they show up. They're like, hey, we brought the Corona, man. You got the steaks. Let's party.
Maybe it's the equivalent of intergalactic ding dong ditch.
Yeah.
Intelligent life, and we're like, oh my god, aliens, and they're like, Yeah.
Try the light stick over here.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm a big fan of, hey, send that signal back. Blast it back at them.
Yeah.
Let's just see what happens.
Joe Rogan had an idea of, like, he was like, what if alien visits here it's no different than, like, 4 a.m. drunk, coked up visits to the strip club. You and all your buddies are like, let's go do our cow tipping. It's literally they're like, hey, you fucked up. Like, you want to go see the humans? And it's like, oh, dude, I haven't seen the humans since I was in high school. Fucking, we'll go. And, you know, you got your hats on backwards, and they're all smoking and driving in the UFOs, and that's what happens when they crash. This is fucking DUI. It's like when they crash in Roswell, and it's like, fuck, and they all get in trouble. They go back home, and, you know, their courts are like, you crashed a ship on the humans. Now they know okay, you know, but it's like that's what UFO sightings are.
Maybe they're council of elders or whatever they call themselves. You know, we're like, hey, dude, crop circles are cool. Quit crashing our rides.
Yeah. It's like, it's almost like it's expected when you're 18 there that you're gonna get drunk and go visit another planet. It's like, don't crash. Do a crop circle. Maybe mutilate some cows. Like, don't crash.
Hey, so I appreciate you having me on again, man. It's always good talking to you. I look forward to our next episode.
Fuck yeah, man. Let's set up another one.
Yeah, as always, Tommy, man. Great talking to you, brother.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Fucking that same goes to you, man. Nothing but love. I love talking to you. Thank you for doing it. And I'll text you later. Let's definitely set up another one. All right, dog. All right. Peace.
Hey, stop recording, but
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh shit.